Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And Sean Chapman.
As always, we are here to talk about stuff, and as always, we are here to apologize for the long hiatus.
Yes.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
See, you were out of town
Yes.
in terms of Boulder.
Yes.
And then I wasn't sure when you would be back.
I'm not sure where I'm going to be at any given time.
And then I was assistant teaching a class for 3 weeks, and that was a whole thing. That was busy, because if you've never done summer classes at a college, that's just kind of a marathon.
Yes, it's super intense for the time you're taking it.
Yes, and so anyway, did all that, got done with that, and then I was like, I don't even know where Sean is. And then time slipped by, and then E3 came this week, and I'm like, Sean, want to do a podcast?
It's like, yes, because I just spent... I am dead. Like, when you sent me that text message, was like right at the end of the Sony press conference. Is like, I can't feel anything anymore because I have just spent the entire day watching these fucking press conferences.
Well, I know
I have to have an outlet for this torture I put myself through.
I feel the same way, and it's in part just E3 is, I think, a tradition we have on this show to talk about and do an episode about. So, yeah, I was doing the same thing. I was watching the press conferences, and it's like, this has to go towards something, or else I'm really watching these for nothing.
Yeah, it's like, it's literally consumes your entire day if you want to watch all the press conferences. There's nothing else you can do.
Even if you're not watching them, just, you can't really do other stuff because you want to follow Twitter.
Yeah, even if you're just
blogs.
like keeping up with the news and not watching them directly, it's still like,
because I watched
takes your attention.
We'll get to this. Like, I watched the big ones. I'm not as crazy as you, and I didn't watch all like EA. I didn't do that.
But if you watch the shit ones, like, those are secretly the best ones, because that's where the dumbest shit happens.
That's true. That's true. But that's why you're here. So anyway, this episode is going to be devoted to E3. I know we've missed like all of the month of May and half of June, so we do have a lot to catch up on, and we will also do an episode either coming later this week or next week on summer movies. We might record that at the same time. We'll see how this day goes. But we're going to talk about at least Avengers 2 and Mad Max, which are... Sure. You know, Mad Max, like, Avengers is good, Mad Max is great, and very deserving of discussion, because for me it's the best movie this year so far. Summer, indie, wide release, whatever you want to call it.
Like, I almost regret that we didn't manage to do an Avengers 2 podcast before Mad Max, because now it just feels like all the air of Avengers 2 is sucked out because Mad Max was that fucking good.
Well, it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, Avengers is a good superhero movie, Mad Max is kind of a masterpiece.
And it's such a refreshing shift in summer blockbusters. It like completely breaks the mold of how those movies have been made for a while.
It does, but on the same hand, I think that's going to be fun to talk about them together, because I think it is instructive. Because I don't think it makes Avengers look bad. No. It does make it look... It shines some light on things. So.
Yeah, it almost like immediately makes it look dated in a weird way, just in the way it's structured.
Yeah,
plot-wise. But
we know you've all seen those movies by now, and I'll do, a rant on Jurassic World, because that movie is fucking stupid, but you all gave it money. Me too, so...
I mean, I didn't.
Okay.
I was like, I don't even really like... This is my dark secret. I don't even like Jurassic Park, like the original movie, that much. I think it's like... I recognize that it's an important movie. I don't think it's that good. I really like Jeff Goldblum in it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just kind of an okay kind of thriller.
The sad part is there are so many moments in Jurassic World where you could have had Jeff Goldblum say something ironic, or the crazy hunter guy go, clever girl. And they didn't have either of those guys in it, so fuck that movie. Anyway.
And, double fuck that movie, because there's no feathers on the dinosaurs, and it's like...
They try to
The one thing that Jurassic Park could be good for is, like, mildly educating the public on, like, what we know about dinosaurs, and it can't even do that.
Yeah.
So fuck everything about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Anyway, that'll be a topic for another podcast. Today is all about E3 and some other little things. And I should say, before we get started on things, this will sound a little different just because we're in a slightly different recording location than we've been in a while. Sean's basement.
Yes. So it might be slightly more echoey, but there shouldn't be any ambulances, so...
Yeah, that's the nice thing about suburbs.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have, like, some fucking pyromaniac or someone who lives around us setting fires constantly so that the fire trucks just constantly go by.
Yeah, okay. So Sean and I, just so you know, we haven't seen each other in like a month and a half.
Yeah.
So this is catch up for both of us.
Yes.
Outside of our apartment in Boulder, I am not kidding you. Every week since you have been gone, there has been a massive wreck in the intersection by our house.
That
Every
weirdly,
week.
It picks up in the summer for some reason. Like, it never, when I was there, it was never that frequent, but over the summers, it would always be like, maybe like once, twice a week, you just all of a sudden... Boom! And like, car crashes are really loud.
They
you
are.
Don't think about how loud they are. You're like, did I just explode? Did my entire condo just explode? I don't know what happened.
Well, it's always the fear for me drivers in Boulder are bad enough that I think it's a remote possibility, but it's a possibility one of them is going to drive through our apartment.
Yeah, that's always my fear, because we are right, like, our condo is on the ground level, literally right next to a very, like, big intersection.
Yeah.
So,
and it's an intersection with horrible traffic management, because what they need is a left turn light, and that's why these accidents happen, is they don't have one. And it's always two people turning, and they crash. And this last one was just a 3-car pileup, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, Jesus, people.
Yeah, it's like one of these days I'm going to be sitting here and it's just going to be that scene from Spider-Man 2 where Doc Ock throws the car through the cafe at Mary Jane, you know? It's just like, that's it. I'm dead because Spider-Man's not here to save me. Yep. I don't have spider senses, unfortunately.
So you would be Mary Jane in this situation?
Yes, I am Mary Jane in all situations.
All right.
I don't know what that means, but...
Someone cut that out and make a loop of it.
I mean, I live in Boulder. I feel like we're all Mary Jane in all situations, if you know what I'm saying.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying.
Alrighty then. So let's, before we get into E3 stuff, plenty of stuff to talk about there. Let's just go through a couple of little things, catch up on stuff. I've got my own stuff here. You might have stuff. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
First one, sad whenever we have to do this, but sometimes we got to. A little tribute to an actor we love. Christopher Lee passed away last week at the ripe old age of 93.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was an interesting thing to learn for me because... I love Christopher Lee. He's a great actor. He's had such an impact on modern cinema.
Yes.
In so many ways. And it's sad whenever anyone you love like that dies. But at the same time, I more than anything felt kind of this sense of happiness and pride thinking about this dude's life.
Yeah.
That he lived to 93, was acting right up until the end.
Yes.
Was making impacts on cinema right up until the end. And when he died, there was this outpouring of information and you learned about the life he led. They could make a movie about Christopher Lee's life.
Yeah, they should. They should make like a trilogy about Christopher Lee's life. That's how crazy it is.
Great.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my reaction, was just renewed respect for this guy.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing where it's like, I feel like the emotions you have when someone passes away because they're old and it's kind of their time, and the way when like someone is sort of tragically taken, they're so different, you know? Mm-hmm. Like there is that, like when someone passes away and they're young and it's too soon, like it's really heartbreaking. And it feels like now we have this opportunity to celebrate this amazing person who led this incredible life. And, you know, like, yeah, Christopher Lee, just like amazing actor, you know? Like obviously, like, a touchstone for us is, like, Lord of the Rings is so huge. You saw that when we were kids. But then also, like, when I got older and went back and watched a bunch of those old Hammer horror movies, you know, with him as Dracula, the dude was fucking awesome. Like, the dude was always awesome throughout his entire life. He was 100% fucking awesome. And almost nobody can say that, you know?
No. I mean, let's just swap some stories we've heard. One of the ones I wanted to start with, because you mentioned Dracula, I read this the other day and he gave this in an interview that, you know, he did, I think, 5 Dracula movies for Hammer.
Yes.
Or something. And with those last couple of ones, he didn't really want to do them. He didn't think they were that good. But he agreed to come back because the crew were his friends and he didn't want to put them out.
Yes, yeah.
That is a class act.
Yeah, that's a cool fucking dude.
Yeah.
My favorite ones are all the ones where, like, I was vaguely aware of this, but, like, I hadn't read a lot about it. But it's all the stuff where, you know, he was basically like real life James Bond. You know, he was in the British Secret Services, like the precursor to the SAS during World War II, did all this crazy spy shit. Stuff that, like, we don't know the details of what he did because he couldn't reveal it, you know, but it's stuff like, and it's something like, one of the reasons that I knew about this is because they talk about it a little bit in the extended edition, like, special features for Return of the King specifically, because there's that deleted scene from Return of the King where they kill Saruman at the top of his tower, stab him in the back. And there's, like, this great anecdote where Peter Jackson was trying to direct him on how to act when, like, he's stabbed in the back, and, like, how he dies. He's just like, okay, I need you to give you a big scream. And Christopher Lee just says, Peter, have you ever heard the sound a man makes when he's stabbed in the back? Peter Jackson goes, no. Well, I do. I know how to play this. If you stab him forcefully enough in the back in the right spot, his lungs are going to collapse. I'm not going to be able to scream. It's this more coughing, sputtering sound. It's like, holy fucking shit, dude. Like,
and imagine all of that said in Christopher Lee's voice.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in the Saruman, like, garb and stuff on the top of a fucking tower. It's like, fucking holy shit.
He's just one of those guys, with Saruman in particular as the one I know best, you can't believe there was an actor that perfect out there for that part.
Yeah.
And I know he always wanted to play Gandalf, and I think he's expressed that was a slight disappointment when he didn't get that, and yet, I'm sure he would have made a great Gandalf.
Yeah.
He was the perfect Saruman.
Yeah.
And those movies would have been lesser without him in that role. And I hope he realized that. And I'm sure he did at some point. Because there really are, it's very much that there's no small parts thing.
Yeah.
And, man, he made those movies better.
Yeah, he embodied that character so much that it's there's no way to imagine that character as anyone other than Christopher Lee, or even just in your imagination, it just has to be Christopher Lee,
When you go back and read the books now, that's
yeah, exactly. It's every line is in his voice in your head and stuff. It's he so completely was that character.
We didn't get the Scouring of the Shire, but you can read it and imagine Sharky being Christopher Lee.
Exactly.
That's great. And he saw the last public guillotine execution in France when he was 17.
Yeah.
He saw that, and he wasn't even particularly young. He was 17.
Yeah.
I just love that. He lived a very long life, and as I said, just accomplished beginning to end.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Hats off to you, Christopher Lee.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're doing crazy awesome shit up in heaven right now,
Yes. I mean, it was his stunt double doing that stuff in the last Hobbit movie. He's doing that for real now.
Yeah, and God is really jealous because his voice, Christopher Lee's voice, is way better than God's voice. Because how does this happen? This shouldn't even be possible.
Alrighty, so Sean, what have you been up to? Any stories, any stuff we want to talk about? Any games you've played?
Yes, I have played a lot of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Okay, I wanted to ask if you'd played that.
That game is really, really fucking good.
Awesome.
That game is crazy good. And it was a weird thing where I played, I want to say about 15 hours of The Witcher 1 on PC. Gave it more than enough of a chance. I could not get into The Witcher 1 on PC, mostly because the game was very outdated, the voice acting was terrible, and the combat was atrocious for The Witcher 1, so I just gave up on it. Never really got around to playing The Witcher 2. Always wanted to because everyone said that it was a huge improvement. And then when I saw the reviews for Witcher 3, I wasn't really planning on getting it because of my reaction to Witcher 1, and I was like, oh, fuck it, I have nothing else I want to do right now. I am in the mood for a big RPG. I will download and start playing The Witcher 3. And that game captured me immediately. I think, right off the bat, it's a completely different game from The Witcher 1, and what it does in terms of, the combat's really fun and engaging. I should say that if people are listening to this and haven't played it yet, I would highly recommend bumping up the difficulty at least one notch, because I think if you don't do that, the combat suffers. And you can change the difficulty at any point in the game, so it's not a big deal. But I think, you should at least try doing it on the, 1-up difficulty from the default. And if that's too intense for you and you don't really like it, then you can knock it down. But it would be harder to start on the easier difficulty and then bump it up, later in the game. Because I think when the difficulty is harder, it forces you to sort of explore your options in combat, and it really makes the combat shine. And the combat, I think, is really good. But the thing about The Witcher that is absolutely amazing is the world they've built, the setting. That's obviously the series, for those who don't know, is based on a series of really acclaimed over there Polish fantasy novels that started in the 80s. And those have started being translated or coming over here. I have ordered one of the first short story collection from Amazon because that's how much I like the stuff in the game. Is I need to fucking read the books now because this game is so good. Find out where the fuck all this awesome mythology and folklore comes from. And then the game itself is made by a Polish developer called CD Projekt Red. And that's one of the coolest things about the game is that you can feel that it is not an American game. It's not a Japanese game. It's not a game made from the UK, which those are the three main places that produce the vast majority of our games, is North America, the UK, or Japan. And it's this is a fucking Eastern European game, and you can feel that all the way through. That culture, that folklore is seeped into every moment of that game. And that game is so fucking depressing. It is so dark. That world is so fucked. There is, in the first area, there's a bunch of these side quests where the whole setting is there's kind of this big war that's going on between this northern empire and the southern empire that's invading the north. And you're kind of on the borders of it at the first area you're in the game. And there's one side quest. I think the first thing that a part of the game I encountered that made me realize just how incredible the game was. If there's just one small side quest that you could totally skip, where this one guy who's this brother of a soldier who's in a big battle that just happened, hires you because you're a witcher. You're kind of a guy who goes around and kills monsters and does other things for hire. And so he hires you to guard him as he picks through this like field like littered with corpses because this battle literally just happened to try to find his brother's shield like a body and the shield that he had to identify the body. And you need to be there because if there are fresh corpses out, that means there are these like ghoul monsters that come out and feed on the corpses. So there's literally this whole mission where you're just like escorting this guy through this like huge field, like covered in like the dirt is soaked in blood and all muddied, and there's corpses piled up in shields and broken swords and spears everywhere, and there's like really somber music playing, and it's just the atmosphere that the game is able to accomplish just in every single moment is incredible. And it's also this big open world game that has no junk side content, like there's no big, like with like Dragon Age Inquisition, there's no go pick up 500 of these bottles scattered throughout the world and 50 million tablet pieces and like all these go up to this thing and reveal the shard locations on the map and get the shards and climb this tower to reveal everything on the map. There's none of that bullshit. It's all like there's a huge amount of content and all of it feels handcrafted. Like there's stories, little small stories to be told in every corner of the world. I don't understand how this developer made this game and has kind of put every other open world developer to task for all the shortcuts those people make to try to pad out their game and say, no, we can have a big ass fucking game because I've been playing this game for like a month and a half and I'm not even close to done because I'm trying to do everything, and we can make this huge world, this incredibly detailed world, and we don't have to fill it with junk. We can fill it with like really heartful, soulful storytelling, It's incredible.
It's funny, I had read a bunch of the reviews and was thinking of playing this game, but you just sold it to me so much better than anyone else. Good. Because I don't know if you've listened to our episode from last year or at the beginning of this year where we talked about our favorite games of last year, and I went on a rant about these kind of open world problems you're talking about, and it's what killed Dragon Age for me. It's ultimately what killed Far Cry 4 for me, just all this stuff. I really like the sound of everything you're explaining here.
It's funny because I enjoyed a lot of Dragon Age Inquisition, but like on that podcast, like I admit, like it has severe fucking problems, and I never ended up finishing it. And like Witcher 3 is a similar game in terms of like, what it is of like this big fantasy open world RPG, but in so many ways is like the anti-Dragon Age Inquisition. It's like no junk content, no like kind of weird hub stuff that kind of cuts away from all the main story stuff. It's like it's everything you wanted Dragon Age Inquisition to be, and also in this like dark European fantasy setting. And when I say dark, I'm fucking dark.
Nice.
Like there is one, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but I will just say the Bloody Baron storyline, when people start encountering that's a fucking amazing, like it's a really long quest line that could be its own game, and it is one of the best things I think I've ever seen in any game ever. Like in terms of storytelling, it is absolutely amazing. Like, I thought when I played Bloodborne earlier this year that I was like, this sucks because this Bloodborne is so good. There's no way anything else this year is going to top this game. It's like The Witcher 3. It's like, I'm 15 hours into this game and it's already, even if I don't fucking am able to have the time in my life to finish The Witcher 3, it's already beaten Bloodborne for me.
Wow, okay. Well, I am definitely going to play this game now.
I massively recommend it.
But yeah, I hadn't had the time yet, and now I'm about to play Arkham Knight. So I want to do that first.
I'm probably actually going to end up taking a small break for The Witcher 3. Because one of the things about it is that it's so emotionally intense that it's like I have to put it down every once in a while and just leave it for a couple of days because I can't deal with going back to the game. So I'll probably take a break in Arkham for a while.
I'm glad to know this game is out there because after Arkham Knight, we're going to go into a little bit of a drought until the end of the summer. So Witcher 3 will be perfect for that.
Fall.
Here's what I've been playing because I realized I needed a game while I was assistant teaching that I could come home at night with my brain kind of half dead and still play without putting any real effort in. Mm-hmm. I got back into Destiny.
Congratulations, I played the DLC. So
I have to. Okay,
I played a little bit of it, like 6 hours or so.
Okay, let's talk about that then, because I've played like another 80 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I really got back into Destiny.
Well, I rebought it for the Xbox One, so my brother and I could play it.
Oh, so you had to make a new character?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was fine. I would have done it anyway.
I kind of want to make a new character now.
Yeah. No, I've gotten one character. I made a new character up to level 34, then made another new alt, got him up to level 24. Anyway,
what are the classes?
I got a warlock and another hunter.
So which one is the 34?
Warlock.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say, having played warlock and hunter both, extensively now, hunter is cooler in how the hunter moves and has the knife. Warlock is way more useful in terms of the super and grenades and that kind of stuff. So
the super has always been kind of the golden gun, at least for the hunter, has always been the kind of the the falling out for him. But I still think he is the best grenade with the spike grenade, basically.
That one's good.
That one's so good.
Anyway, but start playing Destiny again just because I kind of wanted to get back into it, and I had never played the DLC 1 before. Mm-hmm. So I played that, and I thought it has some good stuff. It also, good God, they put no effort into those story missions. That was...
Sure.
Let's crap this out. The first two, there's 3 in that first DLC, and the first 2 take like 5 minutes apiece.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, I think that I really like the third one. Is the third one in that where you have like all the guys that like make the like areas on the ground and stuff? I thought that one was interesting.
That's a great one, and the strike in that one is fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
It's probably still my favorite strike because I just love they just send wave after wave after wave, and it's crazy. Yeah. But no, definitely what we should talk about is House of Wolves because I don't think House of Wolves has fixed all of Destiny's problems. No. I don't think it's made it a perfect game. No. However, I do think it's brought Destiny to a point that it needed to be at.
Yes.
In that it is much more content-rich than it ever was. The story missions in House of Wolves are easily the best story missions in the game.
I agree.
The strike is great. The way it integrates stuff is so well done. And I think the voice acting and the writing finally embraced, we are not an epic space opera. We are a really silly MMO kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Let's just have fun with it. And as a result, I think once you graft that House of Wolves stuff on it, Destiny has just come alive to me in a way it didn't before.
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing. It's one of the interesting things about the story missions in House of Wolves, that it's like, it's not super story heavy. Like, it's never going to be, and it shouldn't be, I think. Like, I think the idea that Destiny should be like Halo in terms of like how it tries to tell a story is silly because
it's just built so differently.
Yeah, because a lot of Destiny is designed around having content that can be repeated because that's the kind of game it needs to be. It's like this big multiplayer co-op semi-MMO experience, so it has to have repeatable content, and story content is inherently non-repeatable in terms of like, I mean, obviously, like, you can experience the story again and get something else from it, but most video game stories are not complex enough for that to be super enriching. It's not like The Big Lebowski, where, like, every time you watch it, you notice a million different things. It's like, you've played, like, the Halo 1 campaign once, you basically have the gist of everything you need to get out from that story. But what Destiny and the House of Wolves expansion does manage to do this time around is, with the writing and the performances, not inject a huge amount of story content, but inject some character and personality into that world that is engaging at least a little bit. Especially, I really love the guy that's like the fallen dude who's with the reef people, the Woken. That guy who comes in your ear and like delivers a couple of lines and kind of gives you some context, like translates the lines of the guy you're trying to hunt. Is like, he says he is the Kell of Kells and stuff like that. I thought that stuff's like, it's not the most amazing written stuff in the world, but it's just a little something to give us some personality. The way that like Cortana was able to in Halo, when you're just walking around and she just talks in your ear for like a couple of minutes about stuff while you're going from point A to point B and kind of filling that dead air a little bit and just injecting some life into the game. That's really what the story content for Destiny needed at the beginning, where the Peter Dinklage character, the Ghost, never really managed to do that.
No.
It's also really startling when you've spent a lot of time playing DLC content and then you go do a normal story mission from the base game or like a public event where all of a sudden Peter Dinklage starts talking like, oh, right, he was in this game. Getting a big actor to play this character for a game that you need for a bunch of DLC was a really stupid decision, because you can now not really just bring him back whenever you want.
Right, no. I agree with everything you just said, and I would say on top of that, the story missions are just so creatively designed.
Yeah.
And I don't have big problems with the design of the original content. I think the shooting and everything is fun enough that the basic level design of send Ghost out, fight the waves, that's always fun. But they managed to make it so much more in this, where there's ones where it becomes a corridor shooter briefly.
Yeah.
And then you'll open up again and have these really complex combat environments. Or my favorite thing about these missions isn't even the new places it sends you to, but the way it recontextualizes existing places in the world that I've just run through before or just kind of seen but never really gone to.
Yeah, or like kind of the one when you said like the corridor shooter opening out, like that, just I think I know the mission you're talking about, where you go back to the beginning of the game where you first spawn in. I thought that was really cool that they brought you back through that area.
That's probably my favorite mission in the game now. I think it's fantastic, and you go back there, and the like car graveyard actually winds up being this fantastic arena.
Yeah, where you never fought before because there's no enemies over there.
Right, and I think if anything, House of Wolves proves what Destiny did do well always is the building of its environments was immaculate, and they are so smartly done. And I had never fully appreciated that until House of Wolves brought you back to some of these places and really had you fight there again. And then they do that on Venus too. I hope we get a DLC someday that brings you back to Mars and does stuff there.
Yeah, because I always felt like Mars was kind of like underutilized in Destiny. Like it feels like it's a footnote at the end of the game.
It is, and if you look at it now with all your DLC on it, and you go to Mars, it has about a third of the content of any other planet. So, especially if you're playing the Xbox One version where you only have the one strike there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Although I think, has that come out yet for...
They said at E3 it's going to now.
Okay,
Microsoft said something
That's
to that
right,
effect.
yeah, because it did, if I remember, it did have a really long exclusivity
It's a year,
contract,
so
yeah.
I'm guessing it'll come with this Taken King stuff that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, because that would be, because it came out in September, so that would be the right timing.
So it would be nice to see those again. I don't really mind because I had played those on PS4, and it's just those.
And they're not like that amazing.
They're not my favorite strikes. They're probably my least favorite.
Yeah, they are exactly my least favorite strikes.
They're fine, but they're not the best. So anyway, I've just had a lot of fun with Destiny. Definitely, I think the game has also opened up now that I have some more people to play it with.
Yeah.
Like my brother, and we can just easily do that, and that's been a fun thing where, when he was at school or at home, and I was still up in Boulder, that was a fun way to just kind of hang out and play Destiny. And because Destiny only takes like 20% brain power at most.
Yeah, especially because, when you've already played through all the content and you're repeating the content. Like, it is exactly how, if just playing Halo multiplayer with your friends, or even when I was playing World of Warcraft, and just just being on chat with your friends and just kind of playing through this game. You're not devoting all your attention to the game, but the game is engaging enough through its base mechanics that it's still an enjoyable experience when you're not devoting all your attention to it.
Absolutely. And I think I've re-burned out on Destiny, but not in a way that makes me mad or anything. It's I'll probably play it again someday. I'm looking forward to more DLC because I think with this one, they've proven they can do it well, and I actually look forward to future expansions.
Yeah, and the Taken King expansion is going to be it's going to be much bigger. These were both small things, everything they've shown in the marketing for the Taken King is no, this is going to be a big new area. It's going to be a big dose of content for the game. Yeah,
and I'm very excited for that. So that should be good. All right, let's see. In terms of DLC, the other thing I wanted to mention is Super Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS.
Right, yeah.
Got new DLC out of the blue the other day. Don't know why they didn't save this for E3, because then they would have had one cool thing for their press conference. It would have been
the coolest thing in their entire E3 press conference.
But no, just randomly it was Saturday or Sunday or something, they did this Nintendo Direct and announced it. I had no idea. I had been working, I think, and came home and saw it, and I was like, oh, okay. And it was, so they added 3 new fighters to the game. Lucas, who we knew was coming.
That's why I think of Lucas.
Yeah. Ryu from Street Fighter.
Why would you put him in the middle? That's the cool one.
Sorry. And Roy from...
It's Lucas, Roy, and it's fucking Ryu from Street Fighter.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And in it, you can do, the Street Fighter moves, and it does stuff in the game. So it's, not just, back, forward B, back B, down B, up B, and base B. It's also dude, you fucking do Hadouken moves on the controller, and it does shit. That's fucking awesome.
It's pretty cool, and they came with 3 new maps, one of which was tied to Ryu. He had his own map. Then there was the Kirby Dreamland stage from the N64, which has always been one of my favorites, so nice to see that again. Yeah. And then a free stage, which is a Miiverse stage, which people immediately abused, and there's a bunch of dirty stuff you'll see when you play it.
Right, okay.
Which is great, because somehow Nintendo did not police that.
Nintendo really does not understand the internet. It's they've been so reserved in trying to make it completely impossible to use any of their products offensively that then the one time they tried to step out of that a little bit, apparently they completely fucked it up.
Dicks everywhere.
Awesome. That makes me way more excited for Super Smash Brothers. If I can beat the shit out of Lucas using Ryu from Street Fighter in front of a bunch of hand-drawn dicks, that's the dream I had last night, you know?
So all this DLC is great. I'll talk about it in a second. Let me talk about the downside, which is the price. The pricing is a little wonky on this. So each of the characters is separate, and you can buy them just for your own platform, or you can get them for both at once, Wii U and 3DS. So I did those, and all told, the 3 characters with the 3 stages, one of which is free, one of which is tied to a character, that came out to $20 for me to get all of that. And I got it for both platforms.
So that's so it costs extra to get it on both.
Yeah, $1 extra.
Okay, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Still, it should just be.
It should be both.
Yeah.
Especially if you can prove you have them or something. I mean, so Mewtwo was free when he came out, if you had both. These guys were not. So it was $20, add that on. I am enough of a completionist and I love those games enough that I didn't really mind, but I did notice it's like, this is kind of a lot.
Yeah, and especially considering that 2/3 of the characters are returning characters from previous games, and one of them is one that nobody liked because he's a clone of a character that already existed. And
I will say...
Did they have a replacement for, like, the Roy Marth in... Like someone who had basically the same move set already in the new one?
No, not really. I mean, well, kind of. Lucina is very similar to Marth.
Okay.
However, Roy has been rethought. I mean, he's a different...
Okay, so
he's very
has
different
move set stuff. Okay.
I like Roy. Roy is my favorite to play of these new three. He's really good. He's a mixture, what I would say, between Marth and Ike, where Marth is really fast and all sword-based. Ike is very heavy and he's slow, and Roy is somewhere in between where he's fast like Marth, but maybe with the power of an Ike. And he's cool. So he's got some of that Marth stuff, but he's also got this new B move that is crazy, where he has this fire sword and just one-hit kill kind of thing if you do it right. So that's neat. Ryu is fun. He's the toughest character to get.
Yeah, because they've turned it into a real fucking fighting game.
Yeah, so you gotta do your half circle, quarter circle stuff, and I've tried it, and it's kind of interesting. His stage is really good, and I like that one. So that's really fun. And then Lucas, as with a lot of these characters, he's not just a clone anymore. They have tried to rethink him. I've never been into Ness or Lucas, and I don't really get how to use those characters, so not necessarily my thing. But, I like Ness and Lucas are together again, I guess. Because now I can team them up on an opposite team and beat them up. That's basically it.
Right.
Yeah. And then the only other complaint I would give is, as they've done with some of the other characters like the Unlockables, they just crammed these guys at the end of the character roster. And I wish they had rearranged it, because it even throws stuff off earlier on. So like on the Wii U version, now Link is on a different line than Zelda and everyone. That's bizarre to me. So just things like that have been thrown out, and I would like to have Ness and Lucas next to each other, and Roy with the Fire Emblem characters. And because Lucina isn't with the Fire Emblem characters right now, you have 3 Fire Emblem characters, then Lucina over here, then Roy over here. And it's all just kind of looks like a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like most fighting games, and obviously Super Smash Bros. Is a little different from a normal fighting game, but most fighting games have like extra space in the at the edges of the character select screen where that's where the new characters fill in. So it like maintains the order of the original character select screen and like puts the new characters on the edges. So like it's clear which characters are DLC characters, and it maintains, like you said, like usually there's actually like especially in the like Super Smash Bros. There's kind of an expected order for the characters that makes it easy to like see where everyone is.
And that's how it was in Smash Bros. 1, 2, 3. They've just changed it now, and I don't know if they'll fix that at some point.
Yeah,
but
that's weird.
And with this announcement, they also announced they're going to bring 2 more N64 maps to the Wii U and 3DS, which are 2 of my favorites, the original Link's Castle and the Mushroom Kingdom stage, the Peach's Castle one. Those are great N64 stages, have never been on any of the other games, so I'm excited for those. And it is nice to see Nintendo supporting Smash Bros. In this way, because it is fun to have those new fighters to play with.
Yeah.
And I think bringing in Ryu is just a cool idea. Because
it's a good fit, like he's, like a big mascot character. Like he's like, if you're going to put in Sonic and Mega Man and stuff, putting in Ryu is a good idea. But I think the coolest thing is that, like, they kept some of the ideas of the mechanics from the game, like the Street Fighter series that Ryu comes from, and translated that in some way to Super Smash Bros. It's like that's a really cool idea. Now they just need to put like a Mortal Kombat dude like Scorpion in there and just have him like rip Princess Peach's head off or something,
Absolutely.
That's obviously the next step, right?
Yeah. All right, so I think that's enough of the basic stuff. Let's go ahead and jump into E3. We did our pre-E3 stuff.
Right.
Let's get into the main things here. So E3 started Sunday night with the Bethesda press conference. I guess before we get into the individual conferences, let's just start with the overall thoughts. What have you thought of E3 so far, Sean?
I thought it's a great E3. Like, last year's E3 I thought was a little bit lackluster. Like, there wasn't a lot of really exciting announcements and stuff. I think this E3, the smaller developers, or I guess not smaller developers or whatever, but like the publisher conferences, E3 or EA and Ubisoft have always been not the best, and again this year they're not the best. Like, there's some interesting stuff in both of them, but neither of them blow you away. They never do, because they never have enough stuff for it. But like Bethesda's conference, which we will talk about, was a huge surprise. Nintendo was Nintendo. Like, I've given up on being super fascinated by what Nintendo does.
But this was lower.
This was the lowest. Like Nintendo had a decent showing last year. Nothing that I was particularly interested in, but they had something new, the Splatoon, which now that came out has like great reviews. Nintendo really lackluster showing, but the big dogs in the fight, the ones that I'm really watching it for, that I'm really interested in, are Microsoft and Sony. I think both of them have had the strongest press conferences. Like, Sony has had the strongest press conferences it's had since the PS4 launch one. Maybe even like actually better because there's like a little bit more stuff to it, I think, this time around. And Microsoft has done a lot, I think, in terms of like, Microsoft already was heavily pivoting with their direction and stuff, and this year they really got to like show where they're heading, and they had a lot of stuff coming out soon. They had a lot of interesting news announcements that were surprising, and it feels like Microsoft and the Xbox are heading in a direction that I think like they're making a lot of smart moves. That it's like, yes, you have fixed all the things that you have fucked up finally. Like they're going to start putting out like they're revamping the UI and stuff now too. It's like the Xbox One is heading into a place where it's like you're unfucking it, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I did not find the Sony one as impressive as you did. I thought I'm not saying it was bad or anything. Yes. I think they have less ground to cover, frankly, and it was some of it was a little bit stale to me. But they also had some big, interesting stuff.
Sony had like the biggest stuff by far to me, like the big three that we'll talk about, the big three announcements that they did.
They did those. We'll get that. One of those was super skeevy to me, though, and one of them makes me annoyed at the internet. So we'll get
probably
to that.
The one that you think is skeevy is the one that I think is like amazing and like super heartwarming. But
Shenmue,
that. Yes.
Okay, well we'll get to that.
The Shenmue thing is fucking insane.
It is, but anyway. What was I going to say? So, but I also thought, like I said, Sony is, they're very dominant. They don't need to do something mind-blowing. And I didn't think they did anything super mind-blowing to me, but it was a good show. And I thought they had the best individual game demo of anyone.
Yes, so by far. Especially of like a new IP, like the Horizon thing was great.
I was talking about Uncharted 4, but that's okay.
Yes, that's also was great.
Anyway, we'll get there.
Okay.
Microsoft interested me because they were super on message. And it was a message that they actually backed up and proved. And that was interesting to me because I think a lot of these conferences from everyone, they try to promote some kind of message, and usually it's just fluff. This time Microsoft...
It's like, Nintendo's all about transformation.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
And they're all about Muppets.
Yes.
Apparently.
All about Muppets and transformation. Microsoft had an actual, message about this is going to be a great year for Xbox gaming, and boy did they back it up, and I thought that was really cool. I didn't think Sony had much of an overarching message. Again, I didn't think they needed one.
Yeah, because they're the leaders in the market, and that it showed on the... That's like the conference that the leader in the market gives,
Right, and it was good. Stuff. But overall, my overall thoughts, though, is similar to what I felt last year, but exponentially more strong right now, is that it's just a good time to be a gamer. Yes. Wherever you're gaming, there's a lot of good stuff coming out. And it makes me, sad that I won't have time to play everything I'm seeing, but I'm already making, my calendar and everything, so I know when I can play this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And just a lot of great stuff. There's so much to be excited for, and there's so little to be cynical about. And boy, does that feel good, especially coming off a couple of years for gaming that I think were really rough in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, the launch of the consoles is always going to be a year where there's not anything like for the new consoles amazing. But yeah, 2014 was a real down year, and kind of like surprisingly so, like nothing really huge.
And also just for the community, it was a sad year for...
Yeah, there's that stuff too, but it's like just with the games that came out in 2014, nothing super amazing. Like my game of the year that year was Far Cry 4, which is like... Far Cry 4 is an amazing game, but it's also kind of disappointing that the game of the year for me was the very similar sequel to a game that came out 2 years ago. And for 2015, there's a lot of fucking shit coming out.
There is.
It looks good.
And even, when I wasn't surprised at something, there was nothing to be surprised about necessarily that Bethesda was going to talk about Fallout 4, but damn it if that wasn't a good demo.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, Or I've known Halo 5 is coming out forever. I'm guaranteed to play Halo 5, but that was a good showing for Halo 5. That kind of thing. So let's just jump right into it. Bethesda was the first one, Sunday night. It was kind of funny. My brother, who is super into Elder Scrolls and all that, big Bethesda fan, was excited to watch that, and we were going to watch the Game of Thrones finale, and as soon as the Game of Thrones finale ended, that's when the Bethesda conference started.
Right.
So we had to go from that, and it was a real whiplash of emotions, because that Game of Thrones finale was pretty death-heavy.
And, well, I mean, like, the beginning of Bethesda's press conference was also pretty death-heavy.
But in a very different way.
Sure, yeah.
So they kicked things off with Doom and 30 straight minutes of gore.
Yes. So, yeah, we knew that Doom 4 was just being called Doom for the title, but I'm just going to call it Doom 4, because it's fucking Doom 4. We knew that it's going to come out, that fucking Wolfenstein, the New Order game that I got, is a really good game. But when I got it, I did a pre-order of 1 day because it was the reviews had come out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get it since the reviews are good. Pre-ordered it the night before it came out to get access to the Doom beta. I was kind of shocked. It's wait, what about that beta? You pushed the game back And so now it's been forever, and like there's supposed to be, I have this fucking thing that says Doom multiplayer beta on it,
and it never happened.
I mean, it's presumably it's going to happen at some point. Like they had just delayed the game, so obviously the beta was pushed back, and this is the first time they've really shown it. I was just like, after they were done with Doom, I was like, that Doom game looks pretty good. Wait, you're done talking about what about the beta thing? Oh, okay. So hopefully, I mean, it would be really fucked up if they never did that. But yeah, like I thought, I was not completely blown away by the Doom demonstration they gave. I thought it was cool that they gave as long of the demonstration as they did. Like they showed a variety of stuff in the game. You know.
Oh, I thought it went on too long. I
thought at least I was glad that like they showed two different areas instead of doing like a super long demonstration of one area of the game. And it's something where it's like, you know, it's a publisher conference, not one of the big, like one of the big three conferences. I guess there's really only two big conferences now. But since it's a publisher conference, I think it is better for Bethesda to do what Bethesda did here than to do what EA or Ubisoft did, which was to spend a small amount of time on a lot of games, most of which are not games that the majority of the community are actually interested in, and instead really, I mean, the Bethesda conference really had two games and like a couple of like kind of teasers and other things they talked about, but they really had Doom and Fallout 4, and they showed a lot of both of those games. It was like, yeah, the Doom one probably went on a little bit too long, mostly because it's not like it's just not that interesting, and I was mostly disappointed by the fact that the music really was not there, because I really love Doom 1. I've never really gotten all the way through Doom 2, but when I played Doom 1 on the Xbox Live Arcade release, I think that game somehow holds up really well because there's no other shooter like it, because shooters aren't made like that anymore, and all the games that like followed Doom in its era, none of them were better than Doom. So it's like Doom is somehow like still this really good game that really holds up because there's nothing else that does what it does as well as Doom does it. And one of the things that Doom had that was fucking rad was the music, which was, you know, these heavy metal inspired MIDI tunes. And it was like, you watch the Doom conference thing here, and it's like, it's super generic video game action soundtrack. Like, I want some just ripping fucking guitar should be going on as you pull out the super shotgun and blow everything away. Which I also don't understand why this guy kept on taking out weapons that were not the double-barreled shotgun. Just like, why would you... That's the fucking weapon. Like, the shotgun in Doom is always the weapon you use in Doom, and then occasionally you pull out the rocket launcher.
Yeah, and it looked fine. It didn't look particularly distinctive. It was a lot of gore, a lot of explosions, and it kind of went on, and the further it went on, the less interesting it looked to me, because I didn't feel like I was seeing a lot of variety to it.
Sure.
But we'll see. It takes an awful lot for a shooter to interest me now, and this did not look bad in any way.
And I appreciated that they're maintaining a lot of the faster paced gameplay. They have like the health and armor is there, and like the weapon wheel thing, so you have like all the weapons. So it's like they're maintaining a lot of things that like old shooters, like Doom era shooters did that modern like Call of Duty version shooters just don't do. And it's nice to see, although like actually like the Call of Duty style shooters are moving towards a more fast paced gameplay style. But it was nice to see like Doom come out, and it's not like, you know, aim down sights, hide behind cover, oh you got hit, like all of your screen is covered in like red goop. It was like there's a lot of like I'm just sprinting super fast, like dodging with like fireballs and stuff, being shot by these demons, and then hitting them with, like, shooting them with my shotgun. You know, they had all the, like, the execution kills or whatever that were going on, that, like, those animations were pretty brutal, but also not, like, I don't know, that feels like a weird thing, like, to, like, really feature heavily in your, like, conferences, like, oh, look at me, I, like, grabbed this dude's leg and ripped it off and hit him in the face with it, in this, like, really kind of janky 3-second animation that you can't see very well from first person. It's like, whatever, but...
Well, yeah, no, it looks interesting, and I look forward to seeing more from this.
Yeah, it's a lot better than, honestly, I really expected. I mean, I guess it's kind of what I expected to be based on what I had heard about it, but, like, if you go back to, like, before the game had kind of been revealed to the press and they had talked about it, like, I did not expect Doom to be like this. Like, if they were going to make another one, I didn't expect it to look like... At least it looks interesting enough to me that, like, I'm open-minded about it. Like, if you had asked me what Doom 4 would have been, like, like all like the Wolfenstein, the New Order and stuff, I would be like, oh, that's going to be like a complete shit game that no one's going to like, and it's going to be terrible. And this let me
put it this way: it looks like a game worthy of having the name Doom on it.
Yes, definitely,
and that's probably the best thing you can say about it.
Yeah, and then there was also some like really confusing thing that they talked about where they said snap map, and it's like there's some level editor thing and like co-op or something. I don't know what any of that was.
It was a little gibberishy.
Yeah, it was like, it seemed like they were getting a little bit too technical for the scope of the presentation. It was like, you need to back up and explain what the fuck you're talking about. It's like, it kind of just looks like a level editor with like prefab pieces that you like put together, but it's like, I don't know like what you're like listing off like modes and stuff that just sound like you're saying deathmatch, but you're trying to make it sound like it's not quite deathmatch. I don't understand what you're saying.
It was weird, but
yeah.
All right, what else did they have?
Then like we'll just go over the two smaller things. Dishonored 2, they had basically a teaser trailer. I never played Dishonored 1. I know like people like it. It's supposed to be really good.
My brother loves that game, and he was very excited by this.
I have to say, like, the teaser trailer made me very interested because it basically looked actually like a teaser trailer for like the Darkness 3 game, because she had like all these weird dark tentacle things coming out and like grabbing that dude and looked like she was going to rip him apart. So I just kept on waiting for like some crazy fucking voice to just like, kill him, Jackie, like in those old Darkness games. That didn't happen. So if it's like the Darkness was awesome. So then I'll play Dishonored 2. And then they showed a really quick video for the Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, we're also getting a Dishonored Definitive Edition remaster.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Well, always have to have a remaster.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the Elder Scrolls Online, that's kind of whatever. Like, I didn't understand if there was something, if they were talking about something new.
It's new. It's an expansion pack.
Yeah. And
my brother loves Elder Scrolls Online, plays it all the time, so that's...
Your brother's a sad person. He should stop that. It's like he should just play Destiny, and that should just completely fill the hole in his heart. It's like that Elder Scrolls Online would like leave behind.
Well, he got it for the console, and what I did when he got it for the console is I put on my Xbox One and created a character, and then said, "All right, I had my fun with this. I'm done."
Yeah, it just I've never played it like a second of Elder Scrolls Online. It just does not seem interesting to me. But then also there's like a quick video clip of this like Battlecry game that is, I think, like basically their third-person shooter MOBA thing that everyone seems to be getting into. I don't really know what it is. It was a really bad trailer, I thought, so I didn't pay attention to it. But let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, which is what they ended, like, spent what felt like the entire press conference talking about when you got out of it, which is Fallout 4. And
they had reason to brag.
Yes, and it was something where it's like, I thought it was an interesting move that before the press conference, like a couple of days before the press conference, they just officially announced, like, put out a trailer. It's like, yes, we're making Fallout 4. It's going to be set in Boston. So those are, like, leaked rumors from, like, what feels like 4 years ago or something from Kotaku. Apparently that was all right. It's like, it had been so long since those leaks that I was like, they must be wrong. Like, there's no way that, like, that came out that early and it's still accurate. It's like, no, this is like everything from those leaks about the setting and stuff. They're totally right. It's set in the Boston setting. You're from Fault 111, which then tied into the release date, which is November 10th,
2015.
Yes, so it's
There's a one in all of those.
Yeah, there's like, you could have really manufactured that for anything. At first, I was like, what is it going to be like fucking January 1st? That would be a crazy time to put out a game. Oh no, okay, it's November.
Well, they had such success with the 11-11-11 thing for Skyrim.
Yeah,
I guess
it's like they're kind of desperate at some point. But yeah, so.
Well, and here's the thing, that release date, when they actually just released the trailer, and it's like, we're making this, did you have any expectation it would come out this year?
No, I thought it for sure was going to be a next year or maybe even later thing. But yeah, that's a good point. I forgot that it's like, that is not expected. Yeah, November 10th this year, Fallout 4 coming out.
And I mean, that's a mic drop kind of thing. Like, they will dominate this holiday with that.
And I'm so glad that, like, that's how they decided to do it instead of, I feel what Bethesda usually does with these games is kind of like what Nintendo does with the Zelda games, which they did again with this Zelda game, which is announce it, like, 3 years before it comes out. And, like so far ahead of time that, like, by the time their projected release date comes along, the game has been delayed for another year because it's a really big fucking game, and those games always get delayed for good reason. It's just like, I'm so glad that they just waited to be like, let's wait until we know we're going to be done with the game, and then we'll let everyone know when it's going to come out.
And it seems like they're very confident. I don't expect this to get pushed.
It would be crazy if it got pushed, when it's this close to the release date that they said. That's I would be immensely surprised if it got delayed in any way. So, like, I guess let's just kind of talk. Another thing that I thought it was kind of an interesting, weird, like, section in the middle of the Fallout 4 stuff was them also talking about the Fallout Shelter,
which is the iOS game.
Yeah, like iOS mobile game, which like seems okay. I don't really play mobile games, so I downloaded it and looked at it for like 5 minutes. It's like, this isn't my thing. Like, I'm not in a life situation that this game is useful for me. Like, I would rather just spend my time playing The Witcher 3. I don't have like a train commute or something. But it seemed like it was a good mobile game. Like, there was no, like, super, like, offensive microtransactions, no, like, stupid stamina system that, like, makes you wait forever to keep on playing the game.
And I know for
spend
people
money to accelerate it.
And I know for people who like that kind of thing, they're saying it's really good. So
yeah. So I thought it was interesting to, like, to put that out there. Also in conjunction with, like, their weird Pip-Boy app for, like, your menu system, and the collector's edition of the game coming with some, like, janky-ass plastic Pip-Boy thing you put on your wrist that looks like it's, like, fucking huge and bulky that you slide your phone into. It's like...
That's something from 1995, and I love it.
Yeah, it's really silly. Like, I'm glad that they're doing that. It's like... you just look like the biggest fucking dope on the planet sitting on your couch, like, with your controller in your hand, playing Fallout 4. You're like, oh, man, I really need to go check the map. Hold on a second. Pull out my wrist, look at it, load up the app, scroll over to the map. That's where I am. Like, put my wrist down, pick up the controller, and start playing the game again. It's like...
Alright, so there was a lot in this Fallout 4 stuff. We can't go over all of it, obviously. No. But let's just go with general reactions. What things that they showed are you excited for in Fallout 4?
I was a huge fan of Fallout 3, so just the whole thing, like, I thought, like, you know, like the game just itself looks really good, I think, graphically. Like, that teaser trailer that they put out before, probably because of compression on YouTube, looked kind of weird to me. That, like, having better, higher quality video and, like, more, like, in-depth video with, like, out a lot of cutting. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, this game looks really good. The animations look good. Like, alright. I was really surprised that they moved away from the, like, non-voiced protagonist thing that they have always been doing with these games, you know? Because, like, Bethesda makes both, like, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim game type stuff, and they've took up Fallout with Fallout 3, and all those games have, you know, that sort of, like, older school style, like, it's first person, and when you get in a conversation, it's just like a line of dialogue that you select, and then just the person you're talking to responds to it. This had a much more Mass Effect style, like, you have a little dialogue wheel at the bottom, the camera pulls out, although they said you could also be in first person for the conversations, and, like, your character is talking to them, your character's voiced, there's both male and female protagonists, which is kind of expected, but they kind of, it's like, yeah, like, it's there. Like, just because we're voicing the characters doesn't mean that we didn't hire someone to voice a female protagonist as well. And, like, that, I think, is a good direction, because their story stuff has always been really bland to me, partially because I feel like the industry moved, like, away from the, like, nothing protagonist a really long time ago, and so it's nice to have that updated. That's, like, the most specific thing that I'm actually excited about in terms of indicating the direction of the game. The rest of the stuff they showed was mostly, like, kind of peripheral stuff with, like, this crafting system that seems really detailed with, like, all these different stuff you can slap on your gun, which that looks fine, but it's...
Well, I should say it looks detailed but accessible. I don't often like this crafting stuff, and I saw it in this video, I'm like, that looks like something I could actually get behind.
Yes.
I just usually think when I get to crafting in games, it's more trouble than it's ever worth.
Yeah.
It's not like I can't figure it out, but I just don't feel like it's worth the effort. This looks like something that could be fun on its own, and then you bring into the combat.
Yeah, and it is also, like, really extensive. It's a lot more than just, like, slap a scope on. It's like, you know, you can get different barrels, different stocks. Like, it seems like you can really change up the look and, like, effectiveness of the weapon in some way. So that looked good. And then there was also the base building thing, which I was surprised at, and I don't really know how I feel about it, because I don't fully understand how it integrates into the rest of the game. But it seemed cool, like, just on the outside. But, like, it's something that I'm also like, but this might be something that I would just never use. And if it's, like, really cumbersome and takes a lot of time to engage with, and they force you to engage with it at some point in the game, that might be a little bit troublesome.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, I did not play Fallout 3. I'm excited for this, and that's almost entirely due to just the confidence they had when talking about it. I liked that this was just a very confident presentation of an obviously close to finished game that looked very polished, that looked very confident in its own systems. And, you know, that makes me... I will definitely play this when it comes out, and it looks very good.
Yeah, it was also a presentation with a lot of variety to it. Like we said, like, they showed a bunch of, like, peripheral systems, and, like, they didn't try to spend a lot of time focusing on the stuff about the game that you already kind of assume is, like, you know, the combat system is going to be like Fallout 3. It still has VATS in it, though. Like, it seems like they've changed up that VAT system a little bit. But yeah, like, the game, I thought it was a really great presentation. The game looks fucking amazing. I could not believe that it was going to come out this year.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for Fallout 4. I also, like, addendum, I really love that the game isn't just, like, a brown muddled mess, which is, like, if you look at screenshots for Fallout 3, like, I really like that game. That game looked fucking awful. Like just like the not even the graphical fidelity of it, just the aesthetic they were going for was so overly bland in terms of like trying to be bland because it's the post-apocalypse, but it's like at a certain point you don't want that. It's more kind of like, you know, the way that like Mad Max Fury Road looks or something. It's like, yeah, it's the post-apocalypse, but just because it's the post-apocalypse doesn't mean that like the sky isn't blue anymore. You know, it doesn't mean that like sand can't be like bright orange when it reflects the sun. Like
this overall just felt like it had a certain level of character and voice to it that I never got out of Fallout 3 in my attempts to play it.
Yeah, it was definitely something that's in there for Fallout 3, but it's not on the surface. Like, you had to dig into it. It's like, yeah, Fallout 4, like, has a lot of that, like, kind of, like, in its aesthetic and, like, just kind of out there, just even looking at trailers.
It really does feel like it's going to do for this series what Skyrim did for Elder Scrolls, of making it interesting to a much wider audience than just the devotees. This is going to be something that I think you can put a trailer out there on a, you know, TV spot or something, and random people will say, that looks like something fun I'd like to play.
Yes.
So, definitely. Bethesda had a good showing. That was their first one ever at E3.
Yeah, a really strong showing, you know, like, especially that Fallout 4 stuff was great.
Well, they've just gotten very big recently, and this was a nice, you know, showing they're on very healthy footing and reinvesting in good stuff.
And I thought it was smart of them to sort of do that and sort of claim their games for themselves instead of having to trot out onto every single stage to show off every product that they were making. It's like, they're making a brand for themselves because they're strong enough to make a brand for themselves, and I think that's cool.
Absolutely. So, let's see. That was Bethesda, then the next day kicked off with
Microsoft.
Which I will say up front, this was my favorite conference so far. And that's not necessarily a knock on anyone else except Nintendo. But I wish we're going to have to make some Nintendo jokes today.
Yes.
But I was very impressed because Microsoft has had a rough couple of years.
Yes. That's understating it.
But I think if you were to make a chart of how they've gone from the absolute utter zero bedrock of their Xbox One announcement to now, it's an exponential curve.
Like, yeah, like now that you say that, like I kind of want to watch these back to back, like the announcement conference and this conference, like it's just, it's completely different. It's amazing that they've Phil Spencer, like the main dude now at Xbox, like he is fucking doing work. Like he has pulled that entire console around and is like...
There's a lot of smart people there. And, you know, last year, our conclusion, I think both of us on E3, for Microsoft at E3 last year, was that this is good, this is a nice step, it's fairly bland, and it still feels a little muddled, right?
It was like the transition stage of them kind of having one foot in the camp that they are firmly in now, and one foot back into like their weird always-on DRM kind of stuff they were in at the launch.
Yeah, and now, you know, it's like, I watch this conference and I'm like, I'm so happy I have an Xbox One, because look at how much exciting stuff, and not just from one area. They had great indie games to show. They had that backwards compatibility announcement, which is mind-blowing and awesome. They had so many good first-party games. Like, in terms of exclusives, no one brought it this year like Microsoft.
Yeah.
And even Nintendo, which is all exclusives, they didn't bring it as much as Microsoft.
They didn't bring, like, anything.
No. Animal Crossing Mario Party.
Nintendo probably shouldn't have even really, like, showed.
No. They had nothing. Anyway, we'll get there. But yeah, so let's talk about Microsoft. They kicked things off with what I thought was a really good Halo 5 trailer, because if you've been following Halo 5, we've all played the multiplayer, actually, because they had a beta.
Yeah.
We've seen stuff from that. We really haven't seen anything from the campaign yet. And then
other than those like weird commercials.
Other than those weird commercials, which won't be in the game, you know.
Yes.
But then
maybe that is the whole game and we just don't know.
Right before E3, there were some leaks from Game Informer that told us a couple of little things, but this was really our first big showing of it, and it looks good. Like, it looks like they've kept that Halo feeling while really innovating and changing things. And I like that it's an evolution of Halo 4, because I think Halo 4 is a great, great campaign. It's got some weak spots here and there in terms of, you know, not introducing the villain.
Yes.
And those sorts of things.
It's like some of that weird... So where I replayed the Halo 4 campaign relatively recently, and I was like, oh, right, that whole thing with the librarian lady happened. What the fuck was that? There's some weird stuff in that campaign.
But Halo 4 has, you know, beautiful graphics, beautiful design.
And incredible sound design.
It's still the best sound design in any game I've ever played. And I think some really great, interesting storytelling stuff. And this looks like it's an expansion of all that stuff they did, where, you know, now you have the 2 teams of 4. We've got Locke, you've got Chief.
You've got Blue Team.
You've got Blue Team, and you've got Team Osiris. You've got Buck coming back from ODST, which is cool.
Nathan Fillion. Yep. And they've, like... Now he doesn't look like a Barbie doll. Now he's like, yeah, that's a Nathan Fillion model that like looks like a human being now.
Right. So, it just... And we didn't even... I like that they're still holding off. We're not seeing the Chief yet, and I'm getting the sense that we're not going to see any of that till the game comes out, which I love. But just seeing the Locke stuff... because the last time they tried to do this multiple protagonist thing was Halo 2, and it was a hot mess.
Yes.
This looks like a much better version of that. Yeah. And I like that it's got that co-op side to it, even when you're not with other people, but it also really honors that legacy of co-op Halo has always had and expands upon it in a way that looks really exciting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested in it. Like, it is like since like a lot of that stuff had leaked out, nothing about the trailer sort of surprised me, because it's like, it got out there that like the structure of it is like Agent Locke has his team of 4 people, like that's him and 3 other people, one of whom is Buck. And then they're going after Master Chief. And it's like, even though this isn't part of the conference, I still want to address this because it's something that's interesting to me in a lot of different ways, is that the rumors, and like seems like it must be what it is that for Master Chief, he has Spartan Blue Team, which is like a set of characters from the books that are other Spartan 2s that were with him in the training program. It's Linda, Kelly, and Fred.
And I love those characters. So.
Yes, but they're also expanded universe characters, and it makes me excited for it as a fan of Halo to see what the story is. It also makes me concerned because the worst part about Halo 4's story in the campaign was when they tried to dig into the expanded universe and utilize like the didact and stuff, but
not explain it well enough.
Yes, but not be able to, because the structure of Halo's campaigns are not suited for complex exposition. They're too action based. They're not. There's no like time to set up a villain, like set up all these other characters the way that you want them to be set up. And I'm a little bit concerned that if they're going too deep into the expanded universe stuff, that they're going to start alienating people who aren't already Halo fans. Like, this might be nothing. Again, they haven't really shown anything from it, but it's just something I've been thinking about a lot, again, because I'm a huge fan of Halo, and then pulling in Spartan Blue Team, that's like my era of expanded universe stuff. It's like I had stopped reading the books by the time all the Forerunner shit happened with the didact. It's like, I know who Kelly, Linda, and Fred are. I like all those characters. But it's like, how are they going to put them in the game with the history that those characters have and stuff? We'll
definitely see. But, the thing I'll say is, you need someone the Chief has a relationship with now that Cortana's gone.
True.
So I like that these are people with a pre-existing relationship there, and if you can sketch it in the way, honestly, they did way back in the day on Halo 1, where Cortana and the Chief go way back at the start of that game.
Sure.
They're just implying it, and we just get that. I think you could do that, and then, all that other stuff could just be whatever you bring into it, and I think it could work. I absolutely think what you're saying could be the downside, but I also think there could be a big upside to this.
Yeah, it feels like they're going for a really big risk with Halo 5, and just in terms of how they're structuring the campaign, specifically with the story stuff, of that, like, introducing all these characters and developing all of them it's a big task to handle, specifically for the kind of campaign that Halo has. And it seems like they're not changing up the basic format of a Halo campaign. Like, they're changing up a lot of the stuff in terms of having these AI companions that are with you that you can kind of order around, that then also can, like, your friends can drop in and inhabit those characters on the fly. Like, that's cool, but it seems like it's still going to be like a linear campaign-based, like mission-based single-player campaign.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, I'm really curious to see more from it. Like, this made me really excited about Halo 5 in a way that the beta kind of left me a little bit cold on it, because I wasn't super hot on the changes that they had made, but this combined with the Warzone announcement,
which looks cool.
Yeah, it seems like a really cool new multiplayer mode that like puts some AI stuff in it, kind of puts a little bit of MOBA, like Dota style ideas into the Halo multiplayer. Like, that seems really exciting and interesting to me, and at least they're heading in a direction that I think is, like, if they are able to nail it, is a great direction to head in. I think it's going to be hard to pull it off, but I'm really excited about it because it seems like they're really going for something cool.
I absolutely agree with all that, and there's just the other pieces of periphery announcements that they mentioned it here, but also is from the Game Informer stuff that they're launching with, they're shipping with 20 maps. Yeah. There'll be 15 more that are completely free. They're not charging for map DLC, so we'll see if there's any paid DLC for this game. But I like that they've got this big commitment to both multiplayer and single player, and it looks pretty extensive, and it looks like they're really working for our love, and that's good.
And then also, like, the little bit of stuff has come out of, like, gameplay from the E3 show floor of, like, the updated build from the beta build. It seems like they have taken some of, like, the smaller periphery complaints that people had to heart, like a lot of the things that I complained about, just in terms of the presentation of the multiplayer. Just like they toned down the Spartan chatter, they toned down like the animations at the end of the game, where it's like it's not a bunch of like
Bros.
Spartans, like bro fisting and jumping up and bumping chests and stuff. It's not that. It's like it looks like they're trying to maintain some of the mystique that the Spartans should have ideally, and they've really it's really nice that it's like, okay, they have taken those criticisms to heart, which were not criticisms that I alone had. It's like they are making changes. They also because I watched the Conan O'Brien show does that Clueless Gamer segment, and they did a Halo 4 one, which is pretty funny. I recommend you watch it. It's like 9 minutes, but there's a brief moment where one of the players zoomed in with the sniper rifle, and I was waiting for that because I remembered from the beta the sniper rifle I hated because the zoom animation took like a second to do when it should be like instantaneous. They've sped it all the way up to like old Halo style. It's like, yes, they fixed the sniper rifle.
Good.
That was the main thing I needed. It's like, okay, I'm in. I don't have an Xbox One, but you do. I will play this game when it comes out, and I will be able to use the sniper rifle.
Absolutely, and it's just one of the things I think is very special about the Halo games is that all of the mainline Halo games, when they've come out, they've been these big labors of love. They've put a lot of work into, and I like we're seeing that even more with this one, where it really feels like 343 is pulling out every stop possible to make this special, and that's good because I think that differentiates it from some of the other annualized franchises like. Yeah. I don't care about Assassin's Creed Syndicate or Black Ops 3.
Oh,
there's nothing in
either
of those.
Black Ops 3 looked pretty cool to me, but we'll talk about that. But Syndicate, I could not give a shit about.
I'm so past on Call of Duty, it's not even their fault anymore.
I guess it's because I really liked Advanced Warfare like Black Ops 3.
And I couldn't get into it, so there you go. But anyway, Halo 5 looks good, and then
and I just want to do like a small side note, just like because it's something I noticed. It's true throughout all of E3 this year so far. That was just like a nice small thing. Is that with all the Gamergate stuff that has been going on, I thought it was cool that Microsoft, and everyone has done this in some small way here and there. Like Microsoft started their press conference with a woman, Bonnie Ross, the head of 343 Industries, coming out on stage. Like everyone had some sort of more representation of more of the kinds of people that are making games. It wasn't just all white dudes up on stage this year, or just white dudes in the games this year. It's just nice to see that it's to remind yourself that the Gamergate, that sort of stuff is on the periphery. It is a small segment of really awful, hateful, toxic people that are making the video game industry look bad when the people actually making the games are not like that. That's it's not honestly video games, the actual people making video games I feel are doing better than Hollywood is doing with movies. It's really nice to see this is moving somewhere, we're not stuck in the past,
Yeah. No, when we get to Mad Max next week, we're going to talk about that. This is our one feminist movie of the decade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yay.
Well, anyway. I guess one feminist mainstream movie of the decade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Move on from that.
All right, next we had Recore. And all they had to say for this one is from the makers of Metroid Prime. It's the studio that split off after the Prime trilogy. It's that director who clearly a genius because Metroid Prime is just one of the best games ever made. And they haven't done much yet. The only big thing that studio's done is Arkham Origins Blackgate.
Yeah, which was not well received. I never played it.
People said it had good ideas, but just wasn't.
Yeah, that it was okay, but not all the way there.
Yeah. But this looks like a really original project from them, something that...
Yeah, brand new IP.
And it started this theme of this press conference of we're sticking with exclusives. Here's what Microsoft is giving that no one else is. We've got Halo 5, then we've got Recore, which looks very artistic, very beautiful. I'm not sure what kind of game it is yet. But
it was a teaser trailer, so there's not a lot of information in it.
Right, but it makes me excited. It's this is a kind of project that I like knowing is coming to my console.
Yes. And then you should also say, this was just for me, that it wasn't just from the creators of Metroid Prime. It was from the creators of Metroid Prime and Keiji Inafune, who's a old Capcom dude who was involved with Mega Man stuff. And also, he was the head of the original Dead Rising. And that game is awesome and goofy. And so if there's just a little bit of that really insane goofiness that guy has, that just follows him in his wake in this game, that makes me excited for it even more.
Nice.
And it had a cool robot dog. Robots are the theme of some of the new IPs. Robots are big. Apparently for 2016.
So what was next?
They had a little bit of Fallout 4 stuff, and I should say we're going to do the game stuff and then talk about the news after we cover all the games, because that's just the way this is structured. So the next was they had a little bit of Fallout 4, nothing too new. There was the cross-mod support between PC and Xbox One, which sounds interesting. I'm curious to see what that actually means in terms of the implementation of it, because obviously... they're not going to let you download, we've retextured, we've upped the resolution on all the textures in the game as this mod. Xbox One can't do that because it's not a PC. Or, hey, we made everything nude and put giant dicks on everything. that mod's probably not going to make it over to the Xbox. So I'm curious to see what the sort of the gating system is, what kind of mods you'll be able to.
But
download.
it's interesting.
It's cool that like it feels like every few years someone comes out and says that like they're doing this. Like PS3 did it back in the PS3 days with an Unreal Tournament game. I think that like I don't know how that went, but it's like, hey, sure, mods, let's try it. Like Microsoft made like a lot of like effort to sort of like address the fact that they also make fucking Windows, and so they have a responsibility in the PC gaming market. So like that was one of those things. Then Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2.
People really like that.
Yeah, people like the first game.
It's not my thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
And they didn't spend a ton of time on it. So
no, like we'll talk about actually the EA one because it's like where it came up in the EA conference was really weird.
Okay, Forza
Motorsport 6.
Nothing interesting here except they came down on a giant car and spent longer talking about that car than the game.
Well, I feel like Forza does this every time a Forza game comes out with like, because it's kind of like with how Madden has like the cover player, Forza has the cover car, the car that's on the cover, and this is some new cool Ford car or something. They had like Henry Ford, the 57th or whoever he was, like come out, like our Lord Henry Ford come out on stage, and he was like, "It's a car game. The cars look better this year.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey,
See you in 2 years from Forza Motorsport 7."
But at the same time, I will say they have effectively turned this into part of Microsoft's brand. That Xbox is where you go for good racing games.
Sure.
And I think that's just a symptom of the larger stuff they're doing here.
Just wait
being
till
on
Drive
message.
Club 2 comes out, Jonathan. Sony's going to take that back.
I'm surprised they didn't just delete Drive Club from the shop and pretend it never happened.
Like, kill everyone involved with the development and, like, throw them in the ocean.
That was a fiasco.
I was a little bit disappointed that nobody said the word Drivatar when Forza came out, just because I find that term really dumb.
Yeah. All right, then Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3 is interesting, because I did not like Dark Souls 2. I love Dark Souls 1. I love Bloodborne even more than any of those. And Dark Souls 3 is, like, the Miyazaki, who is the guy who did Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and then did not do Dark Souls 2, but did Bloodborne. He is now the director for Dark Souls 3, which apparently has been in development. I feel like they said like halfway through like Dark Souls 2 or something, they split off a team to start like pre-production on Dark Souls 3. So I don't know a lot about Dark Souls 3. They just showed a trailer, so there wasn't a lot of like actual game information in the press conference. But now that I know that like it's a different team, like mostly a different team, that the Miyazaki guy is heading he's the director. It's like I'm interested in the idea of Dark Souls 3. I feel like it's going to have a 2016 release, or at least that's what they said. Like, who knows if it gets pushed back. But that may be a little bit too soon for me. That it's like, I really like these games, but I can't play one like every single year, And like, even if Bloodborne was a little bit different, I also think like it's not different enough to like cure my fatigue of like these kinds of games. And then also it was different enough that I don't know how I'll feel going back to Dark Souls 3, like shield and sword and slow gameplay style again. But
we'll see what they do with it. There's really no indication of what they're doing with it. It could be very different for all we know.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've like seen enough interviews to know at least that it is Dark Souls and not Bloodborne. Like it's definitely going back to some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So then next, The Division was on stage.
It's a clusterfuck. Yeah. We'll get there someday.
We'll talk about that on Ubisoft a little bit. That game doesn't look that good. Rainbow Six Siege showed up a little bit. We should say like, with some of the backwards compatibility stuff. Also with Fallout 4, forgot to mention that like there's going to be something with Fallout 3 coming out for free. Like if you have the game, like you'll be able to get Fallout 3 on your Xbox One through like the backwards compatibility stuff.
Yep.
Also Rainbow Six Siege, they said Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2. I've played Vegas 2. That game's awesome. So
nice.
That would be a good thing to get. Gigantic is another third-person MOBA game. They showed a trailer. I don't care.
This is the part of the show where I was maybe...
Yes, this is where we should say, like, this is a section where they just showed a bunch of trailers and moved really fast, and nothing was super stood out.
But this is where stuff started standing out, because then we got back...
One thing in particular really stood out.
Oh my god, then we got into their ID at Xbox stuff.
Their indie stuff.
They showed 4 independent games. All of them look great. One in particular looks mind-blowing to me. But they all looked good. I'm interested in all of these. Mm-hmm. So let's just go through and list these. They had
Cuphead, which is the one that...
Cuphead's the best.
It's basically like if you've ever seen a really old Disney, like the original Disney cartoons like Steamboat Willie.
Or Fleischer cartoons.
Yeah, and that was turned into some crazy fucking video game. That's just what that is. Like, it is just the
visual style.
Yeah, the visual style is so insane. Where like it so perfectly recreates that style and makes it playable.
If you played South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Yes.
I would say it's kind of comparable to that in emulating an art style, only better, because Stick of Truth was really janky.
Yeah. Where, like, if someone told, like, if you just saw a video of it and no one told you that it was a video game,
you would have no idea.
You would know. Like, you would just look at it as like, oh, this is some really cool old school style animation that someone made. Or like with Stick of Truth, it's like you see, it's like, oh, this is a kind of weird looking. That's like guy in this South Park episode. Who's this character? Like, that's like the level of fidelity is so good. Yeah,
and it just
looks awesome.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where I watched it and my jaw dropped because I couldn't believe that was a game.
Yeah, it should be said, I have no idea what the actual gameplay is or anything like that, but looking at the game looks fucking awesome.
Well, and people have demoed it on the stage floor, and it's pretty unanimous that this game looks good. Like, people are saying it's very difficult, it's a platformer kind of thing, but it's very engaging, so I'm excited for that.
The next up is Tacoma, which is the next game from the people who made Gone Home. I think Fulbright Studios is their name. Like, Gone Home was awesome.
It might have been my number one. It was either that or The Last of Us.
It was. I think it was, Gone Home was your number 2 and Last of Us was number 1. But yeah, like it was one of the best games that year.
I would maybe even revise that now because Gone Home has stuck with me more than The Last of Us. So I love that game.
Yeah, Gone Home was really cool. It's cool to see that studio moving. Like it has a sci-fi setting. There's some crazy sign language door. That was cool. Ashen, I honestly don't remember much about Ashen. Do you remember what was that? Was the one with like the two, like the guy and the girl character?
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's like it was. I couldn't really discern what the game was from the trailer, but the visual style was really striking.
Well, that's what I'll say about all 4 of these. The last one being Beyond Eyes, which is the one about the blind
really
girl.
Cool. Yeah,
they all were very distinctive in their style, and that's what I think you want from independent games. Yeah. And this was the best independent game showcase I've seen since Sony a couple of years ago. I feel like.
Where they had like all like the guys walk up on stage and it's like, here's this guy playing this game. Here's this guy playing this game.
Yeah. Just very, like, I had always thought before now that Microsoft's commitment to indies was just a little perfunctory. Yeah. This was them throwing down, the towel. Like, that sounds like they're surrendering. No. Yeah. Throwing the gauntlet. Yes. There we go.
It's throwing down the towel.
Of gauntlets. No. Yes. This looked like this is a real commitment. Here are 4 games that look really interesting, could be very, very good, and they're coming to Xbox and we're supporting them. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, next, Ion from the DayZ guys. DayZ still has not actually come out as a game, so I find it really weird whenever that guy comes up and it's Dean Hall and he's like, we're making this. And it's like,
aren't you
DayZ's been in production since 2007, guys. Like, fucking get that game out of beta. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, whatever.
Ion's a sci-fi thing.
Yeah, it was too vague, and that guy was really pretentious.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
He's the creator.
Imagine if it wasn't a game, but a universe.
Oh, right, yeah. That was that guy. Next,
Rise of the Tomb Raider. Still got a bad title, but it had an awesome demo.
Yeah. It was, because last year they had a sort of teaser trailer for it. This is the first gameplay we've seen. The game looks visually really great.
It does, and I am a huge fan of Tomb Raider. That was one of the best games the year it came out. I think it's fantastic. Really fun game. My only worry with Rise of the Tomb Raider from what we saw is I don't want them to dial up the abuse of Laura so much she looks like a superhero. Because in the first game, it's already like, okay, she would have broken every bone in her body 5 times. And in this first cutscene, they put her through more than they do in the whole first game.
Like, what if they had ended the gameplay demo with one of those really brutal death animations from the first game? It's like she just gets impaled on an icicle, and it's like, oh my god! Holy shit! It's like, and you'll be able to do this to Lara Croft later this year. Like, what?
And I should say, I think they do a very good job of walking that line between, they put her through a lot of abuse, but she is still the active agent in the story,
definitely.
Which is great, and it looks like they're still doing that, and it looks fun and exciting, and like an evolution of that first game.
Yeah, and it looks like, I didn't play the first Tomb Raider game, but it looks really good. But I did like about this, just as the trailer, once they got through the big gameplay demo and kind of had the fast edited trailer at the end, it looks like there's a larger variety of locations and stuff in this. Whereas the first one was just set on that one island, right? Mm-hmm, yeah. It's obviously there's different places you go on the island, but this was reminded me more of the older Tomb Raider games, just in terms of it's more of a globe hopping adventure where she's up in these mountains, and then she's in the Brazilian rainforest or something, actually going in and raiding tombs.
Well, and that's the thing. This looked like it had actual tomb raiding. The other Tomb Raider it's all optional.
Yeah, and it's because it was her quote unquote origin story as Lara Croft the Tomb Raider.
And I actually thought the tomb raiding stuff in that first game was great.
That's what I've heard.
It's not fully integrated.
Yeah,
which is fine. We'll see how they do it in the sequel. Yeah. So it looks good.
So the next we got,
and when we got a release date for that, it's coming out the same day as Fallout 4.
November 10th, yes, 2015.
We'll see if they move that.
Yeah, right. So then we had Rare come out with they're coming out with Rare Replay, which is a collection of like 30 Rare games.
And no, GoldenEye is not one of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah. But Conker's Bad Fur Day for people who are 5 years old can go play that game again.
But there's good ones in there,
yeah,
too.
there are good ones, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of, like, Rare's backlog, so it's, like, not that interesting to me, but for people who
it's a good deal.
Rare games.
It's
yeah, it's $30 for 30 Rare games. Some of which are, like, you know, Banjo and Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, which was a 360 game, and, like, I presume Viva Pinata must be in there.
It is, that and Viva Pinata 2, so you get both of those.
Right.
Which that alone for some people will be enough to have that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for like $30, like that's a good price for like those 3 games that are not like they're old games, but they're not that old.
And finally, Battletoads on Xbox One. We've been predicting it forever for some reason.
Sure, yeah, Battletoads. That game's okay. I don't know why people are so like enamored with Battletoads. It had really cool animations. That was the thing that I remember about Battletoads.
But it's this big fucking deal, and then anyway.
But we can't forget the seminal N64 classic Jet Force Gemini. That complete unplayable piece of shit of a game that at least a game that I think is atrociously awful. I didn't play it when it came out, but Jet Force you can play Jet Force Gemini August 4th on the Xbox One. If you hate yourself. And then you can play Banjo and Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, because that's the best Banjo Kazooie game.
And then eventually you'll be able to play this pirate game they're making.
Sea of Thieves.
Which looks really cool.
Yeah, like it was the trailer they showed I thought was a little weird, because it was all first person, and there's all this stuff going on with them on the ship, and like you know, broadsides and like cannonballs flying through the air. But the player point of view was not doing anything, so I was like, what do you actually do in like there's stuff going on, but the player character that we're like seeing the viewpoint from is not doing anything? I was a little bit confused at that. Like how come the character is not doing anything in this trailer? I thought it was just like it was just strange. And it's also something where like, you know, like this is not saying anything about the quality of this game, but I always feel it's really weird when Microsoft tries to like trudge Rare out onto the stage and be like, we're making a new Rare game, because it's like, all the people who made those games are not a part of that studio anymore. They gutted it after Viva Pinata 2 and made them make avatars for the Xbox 360. That's what happened to Rare. It's like this game can still be good. It does that does not say anything about the quality of Sea of Thieves, but it doesn't say anything about the quality of Sea of Thieves. I guess is exactly what I'm saying. That's like it could be good, it could be bad. But Rare making it means absolutely nothing. And I kind of, you know, it's not like a big deal, but it makes me a little bit angry. It's like it's very disingenuous to.
It's skeevy.
It's very disingenuous to come out there and be like, it's the studio that brought you Viva Pinata, but none of the people who did, except for like maybe the concept artist or something. Who knows?
It's like when you watch movie trailers now, and they'll say from the producer of,
like from Jerry Bruckheimer. It's like that doesn't tell you anything about this movie.
No. Anyway, all right. What else we got?
We got a quick demo of Fable Legends. Like,
yay.
Yeah, like, as a huge Fable fan, I'm kind of disappointed that Fable Legends it doesn't look like a Fable game. It's, like, completely different. So, whatever, that's what it is.
And then it was Gears of War time.
Yes, then, this is really weird to me. They're doing a remake, or, like, not a remake, like an update, the definitive edition, we'll call it, for Gears of War 1. The Ultimate Edition, as they call it.
Yes.
But for only Gears of War 1, which is, like, Gears of War 1 has maybe my favorite campaign just in terms of like nostalgia factor for the franchise, but I think Gears of War 3 is unequivocally the best game. Like, I get that Gears of War 1 is the oldest one, and thus like it looks visually the worst, but like I want like the multiplayer from Gears of War 3, and I want the Horde mode from Gears of War 3. I don't need to replay the campaign from Gears of War 1 that bad, you know?
I pretty much agree with you. I think some of the stuff they're doing with the dedicated multiplayer is kind of exciting, but
sure.
I don't know. We'll see. It's agree.
Just an updated version of an old game, but it feels like, you know, like they're doing Sony's doing their Uncharted collection, and at least have like they're putting all the Uncharted games in it. There's not just like you can play Uncharted 1, but not 2 or 3, or you can just play 2. Like I think what I would have done is I would have put in the campaigns for Gears for all 3 of the games, and then like the multiplayer, like an updated multiplayer in Horde mode from 3.
Yes.
Like that would be the ideal Gears of War Ultimate Edition, like the Marcus Phoenix collection or whatever they would want to call it, the Do-Rag collection.
I agree, and you know, some of the bite was taken out of this by the backwards compatibility announcement, because now you can just play Gears of War 3 if you want.
If they let you play Gears of War. Oh, well, no, yeah, Gears of War 3 might be on there.
Yeah.
But Gears of War 1. I would be surprised if they they allowed backwards compatibility for games that they're making HD remakes of. It's not on the list yet. I'll say that.
It's not on the list in that art they have. I know they have all the Halo ones in there. In that that like promo art they have, and they have other ones that have their definitive editions already. So I agree they could do something kind of skeevy with that, but we'll see.
Because it just does feel a little weird too when you announce backwards compatibility and then you also announce an updated version of a game that's like Gears of War 1 doesn't need an updated version that bad.
Yeah.
Like the only reason like I kind of tolerate the definitive edition stuff otherwise is because there's no backwards compatibility. Like there's no reason for it when there is.
Right.
But then we got what I thought was a really lackluster demo of a game that just on the screen said Gears 4. It did not say Gears of War 4. It did not say Gears of 4. It just said Gears 4, which I thought was interesting.
Maybe the of was really small.
Yeah, it's like it's hard. Who knows if that was just like their like logo treatment or if that's the full title of the game. But like,
it looked so nondescript. It just was.
Yeah, it was like I really
generic.
like Gears of War. I like Gears of War. Like I guess I really loved Gears of War 1. Gears of War 2 was a good game that really disappointed me, so I kind of hate it in my memory because it's like it was a huge letdown. And I thought Gears of War 3 was an amazing game, one of the best games on the 360 probably. And
I would agree with that.
Gears 4, like having this demo where like at least new characters, which I think is a good idea, like not to trot Marcus Phoenix back out because that guy's kind of done. He took his do-rag off at the end of 3. Mm-hmm. It's over for him. But like, and I kind of appreciated, I guess, that they had more of the survival horror aesthetic that Gears of War 1 had that the series kind of got away from in this demo. But it was a really long gameplay demo where kind of nothing happened in it. It was a lot of walking around, having these two characters you don't really know about, say a couple of lines of dialogue to each other, and then a couple of new enemies pop out and you shoot them with a Lancer. That was the whole demo.
I agree. It was not all that interesting.
Yeah. It's just kind of a bummer that like a Gears of War 4 announcement comes out and it's like, well, you must have had something more interesting to show from this game. But,
it felt very limp.
Yeah, and it was a disappointing note to end the conference on because it was like, sure, Gears of War 4 is not like the most exciting announcement, but like I'm sure it's going to give a really good demo. The same way that like Uncharted 4 is not the most like groundbreaking announcement you can make that you're making Uncharted 4, but they gave a hell of a demo of it. It's like Gears of War 4 is like, this is the note you leave. That this is a really great conference.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay, but you said you wanted to talk about those the other announcements.
The news announcements. Let's move to those. So first of all, we kind of like talked about a little bit around the periphery. Backwards compatibility was the big one.
Boy, am I happy about this.
Yeah.
And it's really cool if you've seen some of the stuff they've put out since the conference of how they're doing it.
Yes.
It's really clever. They're just emulating the Xbox 360 software and hardware.
Yes. On a very basic level.
On a very basic level, and then everything can come in. It's kind of like, but much more seamless, how the Wii U does Wii stuff.
Yes. But you don't have to boot into Xbox 360 mode.
No.
It's basically
an app.
Yeah, like they're putting in because kind of basically the ability to emulate the entire Xbox 360 software, like OS suite, and then like tricking the system into thinking that the game itself that it's running is just a game called the Xbox 360 more or less, and like runs everything with the game so that they can run the game through that emulation and not have to like emulate any game individually. But then it also allows them to like do multiplayer stuff with it. It also allows them to put in some of their like record and share features that they have on the base level Xbox One OS and allow you to engage with that on 360 games, which is really cool.
And still have original achievements and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very comprehensive version of emulation that's a lot more sophisticated than the stuff that 360 did with the original Xbox.
Yeah.
Then it also seems like the way they are doing it. And so I was a little bit concerned on the announcement itself. They had this thing where it's like, as long as the publisher approves it, like, and then like talked about some stuff. It's like, oh, like maybe this is something kind of like the original Xbox emulation on the 360, where it's like they'll start doing it, but then like actually like a third of the library will not end up being backwards compatible because of how much work it comes in. But for this, it seems like it's more or less seamless. Like they literally just need kind of the go ahead, do some Q&A to make sure there's nothing broken, and then hopefully it'll just be able to go out there and work.
And I also suspect they're going to be committed to this because it's something that people are excited for. And I just have to tell you, I am so happy about this because there are still 360 games I'd like to revisit and like to play. And I hate having to just have the other 360 kind of just sitting around sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I think it's ridiculous that neither of these systems had any kind of real backwards compatibility contingency plan. or it made me kind of bummed out. And I'm glad someone's finally doing it. And this is so preferable to PlayStation Now, which is stupid.
I mean, PlayStation Now is a totally different service. Like, I feel like it's not there. The PlayStation Now does not exist to make the PS4 backwards compatible. That's just how some people are like trying to use it.
I understand.
Like, it's a very different thing. But yeah, like, it's really cool.
This should just be really nice and seamless. Like, if you want to play Mass Effect 2, it'll take your cloud save.
Or if you want to play Mass Effect 1, which I thought that was a really, like, I love Mass Effect 1. But a weird choice for that to be the one that, like, they play on stage. It's like, oh, because I haven't seen footage from Mass Effect 1 in a long time. It's like, oh, hey, the last level of Mass Effect 1. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, it was kind of funny. But, I mean, it's just... And some of the ways they're doing it, too, like, your digital Xbox 360 games will just show up in your library.
That's cool.
How cool is that? Yeah. Like, I could just wake up one morning and, I don't know, Sonic Adventure 2 is there that I bought. Or Marble Blast Ultra or something.
Again, you're picking, like, these are weird examples. Why are those, like, of all the digital Xbox 360 games I've purchased, Sonic Adventure 2.
What else should I do?
I don't know what games you purchased on the Xbox 360.
Well, what are the big digital Xbox 360 games? Like an arcade
most
game?
of them ended up being like digital in some way that you can.
Okay,
like,
that's true.
You could play The Witcher 2 digitally if you wanted to.
I could. I actually have Dark Souls 1. I've never played it that way, but I have it digitally.
There you go. Man, that's a fucking great game.
Good.
Yeah. This is by far the coolest thing that like one of the coolest things at like arguably maybe even the coolest thing at the whole press conference, depending on like what you're emphasizing. It's like awesome announcement. It's great power play from Microsoft for the Xbox One. Like really helps flesh out that system in a way that's like that the PS4 simply does not have. You know, it kind of puts Sony on the defensive. That hopefully they will think about doing that as well, like figuring out a solution for the PS4.
Right, and it's just it's the kind of thing where I think they said this in the supplementary video of they hope it encourages people who are still on the 360 to upgrade.
Yes. Actually, that was actually kind of a weird moment where they say Phil Spencer said that on the conference on the stage.
Okay.
Just like. Is one of the things that I like about the new like face of Microsoft is that they are sort of more honest, but it was also kind of like you don't expect a company to say that like that's clearly like the primary intention of bringing over backwards compatibility. It's interesting that like they just straight up and said it, you know. Yeah. But yeah, like the best thing about this announcement isn't just that they're doing it to me; it's that they're doing it kind of in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. Like outside of having built the Xbox One from the ground up to do it from the beginning. Like, this is the best way they could possibly implement this feature. So.
Absolutely, and I am very excited to play... I don't know, I never played Dark Souls 1. I never played Skyrim, and it's just now it's like, someday I'd like to go back and play that, but
Skyrim was really fucking good.
I don't want to drag out my 360, so this could be fun.
Still, to this day, have never gotten more than like 4 missions into the main campaign line for Skyrim. I played like 200 hours of that game and just did everything else.
Nice.
So then the other announcement, let's just talk about this quickly, the Xbox Elite Wireless Controller.
This is interesting, I think.
It's basically, it's a $150 like premium controller that's a kind of thing that third parties make this kind of stuff all the time. It's basically something where it's like, you know, you can adjust the triggers so that they have like smaller give on them so like you can tap them a lot faster. There's like modifiable buttons on the bottom of the controller and stuff. It's something where it's like these controllers exist, they just don't exist in official capacity. So I was like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's something that I would never buy because it's just too expensive and not worth it to me to pay.
Here's what I said to my brother when we were talking about this. I said, this looks cool for a lot of people. I'm not going to pretend I'm a good enough game player to need this.
Yeah, to make it matter. Yeah, but yeah, that was like. It's not that exciting, but it's like there's no reason not to do it. So it's like, yeah, cool. Go ahead and make an official version of that.
Well, it's part of the whole. When you put it next to everything else, it's like there's a lot of cool stuff for a lot of different varieties of gamers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Which I like.
So then moving on, this was also really cool. The HoloLens presentation for Minecraft that they did, where they kind of showed off some HoloLens stuff, I believe, at GDC. So this is basically. Here's like I thought this whole demo was really cool, and I'm excited about the idea of HoloLens. Here's my one nitpick: I don't like it when they call it mixed reality because we already have the term augmented reality, which I think is a better description of it, and it's cooler sounding. But like that's the cyber future I want to live in has augmented reality. Mixed reality sounds like weird. It just sounds like something your like mom would call it or something, you know. So hopefully they decide to go back and call it augmented reality. But basically. I don't fully understand, like, and I don't think even Microsoft knows yet what to do with it in terms of like specific like games made for HoloLens. But it's what Google Glass should have been from the beginning. That it's more or less it has a screen on it that allows you to see digital holograms more or less like in the world. So it's stuff where this Microsoft or Minecraft presentation was they basically made a 3D representation of Minecraft and had it appear for people wearing the HoloLens, and they like had this whole camera thing set up so the audience could see it, that generated the Minecraft world in a 3D way out of the table. So it's like imagine if you like made a big Minecraft world out of Lego on a table. It basically just kind of looks like that. Like it just exists in the world to you, and he was able to interact with it, like move the map around. You could see the person playing in real time, moving around on the map. And again, it's something where it's sort of the technology isn't fully there. Like it's clearly like it's in progress stuff, but it's really cool. It's a cool presentation, and it's something that has an advantage over VR, which a lot of people are getting into. That like you can actually demo HoloLens in a way that like the audience can see and kind of understand some of it, even if you don't get the full effect of the 3D presentation. You can understand what you're seeing with HoloLens, whereas like trying to demo VR games on like flat TV screens is completely useless, which is probably like Sony didn't really put much effort into it.
Right.
But yeah, like HoloLens stuff seems cool for the future. Probably actually for applications probably way outside the realm of video games is where that technology should go. Then also they said something about like partner like Microsoft for in a Windows capacity partnering with Valve VR. That just seems like a concession to say it's like yes, like Valve VR is probably going to work on Windows because we're talking to Steam. It's like okay, and then like halfway through the press conference, Steve Ballmer from EA came out and he was like, "Hey, EA Access is on the Xbox One.
Remember?
I didn't." When they do that presentation, but now I do. You'll be able to play Dragon Age Inquisition and Titanfall through EA Access if you pay them like $50 a year or whatever the fuck it is.
It's a good deal for some kinds of gamers. It's not my thing, but
yeah, I just feel like I feel the same way about it that I did when they announced it. It's like EA just doesn't have a broad enough range of titles. Like if you played every single sports game under the sun, then EA Access is a good idea for you.
Which there are those kinds of people.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, they do exist, but they're not in large number. It was a weird moment that like is like one of the kind of the only like extended moment on the Microsoft press conference. I was like, you shouldn't be doing this. This is taking too much time. And then Xbox Game Preview, which is basically early access for Xbox, only like not obviously as open as early access is on Steam, which I think is a very good idea because early access is really fucked on Steam. It's like it seems like it's a very sort of tentative program that's like they're kind of just like introducing to sort of get some feedback and like test the waters for this kind of thing.
I just, I generally think early access is a terrible idea. And what was funny about this part of the announcement is the person who was on, I forget who was announcing this on stage, but he kind of sounded like we're not really sure about this, but we're going to give it the old college try, and if it works, great.
Yeah, that's basically, like, I saw there's a longer interview that Philip Spencer, I think he was on the stage when they were doing the game preview stuff, he did an interview with Giant Bomb, where he was talking, it was basically what he said, was like, well, like, we're trying to avoid the early access pitfalls by allowing demos, by really screening the games, by not like putting every single game out for this program, and that like you will be able to play a free demo of the game before you put money into it, which that seems like that is a critical thing that early access on Steam does not have. That's like, yes, that's, if you're going to do this program, where I'm with you, I don't like the idea of it, basically, but if you are going to do it, it absolutely needs to have the free demo in place. And so it's like, yeah, it's something where it's like, it's something where the video game industry in some ways is moving in that direction, and it seems like Microsoft is like saying like, well, let's give it a shot and see if we can do it on Xbox One.
I don't think it's a bad idea for Xbox to be doing it in the way they're doing it.
Yes, they're doing it in the best way, but like with the backwards compatibility, they're doing it in the best way possible. That is like, if the game's preview thing falls apart, they're going to just drop it. Like there's no reason to like force this system, and so that's why they're being slow about it. It's smart.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for Microsoft. Good show. We both agree.
Show, yes.
Let's see. For EA and Ubisoft, let's not do the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll just skim through it. With EA, Mass Effect Andromeda is the new Mass Effect game. It was just a teaser trailer.
Why the fuck did it have Johnny Cash in it? That was weird.
I don't know. Yeah, Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Did not work.
Weird choice for a Mass Effect trailer.
Especially because my favorite moment from the whole trailer was the little splash screen at the end where they played actual Mass Effect music.
Exactly, yeah. And so, basically, from what I gather, like what it is that it's the new Mass Effect game, but it's set in a new galaxy, which is why it's Andromeda, is the nearest galaxy to the Milky Way. Which I think that's a smart thing for them to do for Mass Effect, because it's like, even if I love the Mass Effect 3 ending, but like, I don't know what you do after Mass Effect 3 in terms of the storyline, so just, like, divorcing yourself from a lot of that baggage and just saying it's like, we're going to completely new frontiers, I think that's a smart idea for the new Mass Effect.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I think it's a cool sounding title. I like Mass Effect Andromeda. But here's a question for you. If you're in a new galaxy, does that mean you now have new galaxy map music?
I think you should. I think it should honor the old music, but it's got to be its own thing.
You need your Andromeda version.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So then, Need for Speed. The old Need for Speed Rivals game, which came out at the launch, was a really cool game with a really good foundation that was utterly broken in a couple of fundamental ways that made me completely incapable of playing it past like 5 hours.
Yeah.
So hopefully this one is cooler. They're doing their weird live action FMV stuff that they did in a couple of 360 games. I'm not a huge racing game guy, so I never played them, but I watched some of it at one point when I heard how goofy it was. I'm glad that they're doing goofy live action stuff because someone needs to at some point in video games. So yeah, that's Need for Speed. There's a Star Wars: The Old Republic expansion. The trailer, the CG trailer.
That was the big surprise. Star Wars: The Old Republic is still a thing.
I mean, it's doing really well in the free-to-play MMO space. Like, it's actually really successful. But it's kind of like every MMO that's not WoW either is dead immediately or it's like weirdly doing really well in its own weird corner and nobody else ever finds out about it. It's basically where
it was so hyped when it came out, and I haven't heard a thing about it in years.
Yeah, it's like I played quite a bit of it when it came out. It's a good game. Like if someone's interested in playing a free to play MMO, I'm sure Star Wars: Old Republic is a good choice. But again, a new CG blur trailer came out for it, like the old ones that when they were still making the game, and that trailer's fucking awesome, and everyone should just go watch it. It's like 5 minutes. It's great.
Nice.
Star Wars mobile game. Nobody cares. Okay, the Yarn platformer game with Unravel. This was... It was a really adorable announcement because they got like this Swedish guy to come out on stage and he had this like little yarn doll he made himself called Yarny. He had this incredible line where he said, "I never expected 2 years ago when I was playing in the woods with Yarny that I would be up on this stage." It's like...
That is the line of E3,
yeah, that's basically the line of E3. But it seems like it's a cute, like, indie puzzle platformer. Who knows how good it's going to be. But EA doesn't put this stuff... Like, it was the most refreshing thing. Because I will say, I watched all the press conferences. EA's press conference was fucking mind-numbing. Like, I hated myself halfway through it. And so it was nice to get this breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, something, like, artistic and, like, joyful and youthful and, like, beautiful and new. Yay! And then you went right from that into they had the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 thing. So it's like you go right from this really heartfelt, adorable, like, Swedish guy who's like, me and my, like, 11 buddies, we're back in Sweden, we're making this game, we've always wanted to make it, we're like, they're not going to make it for profit, they're like making it because it's like, this is their passion project. And then you have a guy in a big zombie costume come out on stage to the Top Gun song Danger Zone and dance around. And then they showed basically an entire fucking multiplayer match for that fucking Plants vs. Zombies. It was like 10 minutes. It was excruciating.
Oh, God. Okay.
So, yeah, that happened. Then they just went into Sports Hour. The Hoop God, who is the NBA Live community manager, was up on stage, and...
I didn't know any of that was a thing.
They said the Hoop God like 5 times. I don't know who the Hoop God is. The NBA Live 16 is happening.
No shit.
Yes, FIFA 16 is happening. They brought Pele out, who's like, he's the soccer guy. Like, he's like the greatest football player of all time. And, however, they had like a 10-minute conversation with Pele. Like, they brought chairs out on the stage. Pele, old, like, I think he's Brazilian, old Brazilian guy out on stage. Great athlete, amazing that he's out there. It's like having, like, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali out on your stage. It's really amazing that you're doing that. Do not spend 10 minutes talking to Pele about Pele's history at soccer. It's like, I don't care about FIFA games, but at least talk about your fucking FIFA game when you're talking about your FIFA game.
Here's what would make me play FIFA 16.
Yes.
If it was accompanied by John Oliver commentary on how much he hates FIFA.
Or, like, I was going to say, great. It's like if FIFA 16 was just you leading some sort of, like, legal team that was trying to bust FIFA after, like these severe human rights violations where they have, like, basically indirectly caused the deaths of hundreds of people. It's like, yeah, FIFA's really fucked up. Yeah. It's kind of weird, like, a couple of weeks after all that news comes out, that then you come out on stage and it's like, FIFA! And they have their trailer they have every year for FIFA, which is like, they had Pele narrating it. Last year was Patrick Stewart, and it's like, soccer is like God's gift to man. If you don't play soccer, you are some like pathetic excuse for a human being. If you don't care about soccer, you should probably just kill yourself because soccer is everything that the human race has ever aspired to. That's basically the tone of all those trailers.
Yeah.
Had another one of those. Had a teaser trailer from Mirror's Edge 2, which is now called Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Like, that game will probably be pretty cool, but there was not a lot of info about it. Then also, throughout the entirety... Oh, they also talked about hockey and football. So they dedicated like half the press conference to 4 different sports games.
That's how they do it.
It was fucking excruciating.
This is why I don't watch these, Sean.
But throughout the entire... This is why I watch these, because this is fucking hilarious. Throughout the entire conference, like I would say every 10 minutes or so, and the whole thing was like an hour, a little thing would pop up at the bottom of the screen, like if you're like watching cable TV, you know, like up next, Law & Order Criminal Intent, that kind of thing would just pop up and it would say, Star Wars Battlefront in 35 minutes. It's just like, you're watching a Mirror's Edge 2 teaser trailer and like a little thing pops and it's like, Star Wars Battlefront announcement in 3 minutes. And that wasn't the stream I was watching. That was EA doing that, putting that up over their own press conferences. Like, I know you don't give a shit about Madden, but you probably like Star Wars, so don't worry. This game that we already announced, already had a big thing for at Star Wars Celebration, and we're not going to tell you anything new about it. We're going to tell you nothing new about it at the end of this show. It's like, just wait for it. It's in 15 minutes. So they got to the end. They showed a really long trailer for Star Wars Battlefront. It basically looks like Battlefield or Star Wars stuff. I'll probably play it because I love Star Wars. Like, it looks really high quality. But it is not the kind of announcement you can pin your whole fucking conference on because there's nothing exciting or new about it. It's Star Wars Battlefront. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
So that was EA. EA was... Ignoring Square Enix is a totally different conversation. Of like the main press conferences, EA, in my opinion, was by far the worst. It was fucking intolerable. So we'll go through Ubisoft really quick.
At least Nintendo had puppets.
Yeah, I will say this. Even though Nintendo had no interesting announcements to me whatsoever, I thought they had actually the best one to watch because it was like very relaxing and comfortable because of the video presentation.
Are you talking about the Yoshi's Woolly World one?
Yeah, and just like the
fun.
weird puppet skits and like just having Shigeru Miyamoto like be there talking about the development of Super Mario Brothers. And I'm like, I don't own a Wii U. I'm never going to get any of these games regardless of how good they are. I can just relax and like bask in like Miyamoto-san. Like let's get some of that.
No, the Nintendo, if you could look beyond the stupidity of a lot of their choices of the conference, they had at least 2 segments that I thought were really good and I'm glad I watched.
Yeah, it was fun to watch because it was a video. But yeah, let's talk about Ubisoft. Ubisoft had what maybe is actually the greatest start to any press conference because they started it announcing the new South Park game and with the trailer. And the trailer ends with Cartman saying the name of the game, which he says like South Park, the Fractured But Whole. That's the best title. The title makes no sense, but it's really fucking funny. And then they had Trey Parker and Weston. They were out on stage. They're just like, they're making a new South Park game, which is surprising. Like, I didn't expect there to be a sequel to Stick of Truth because that game had a very famously, like, a really troubled production. So it's cool to see them, like,
they took it away from Obsidian.
Yeah.
Said, you fucked this.
Yeah,
no more for you.
Like, there was all the THQ stuff. Like, that game was just fucked in so many ways.
Someday, Obsidian, you have to learn to make a game without glitches.
And like, they make really amazing games that are, like, broken in so many ways. It's, like, so heartbreaking every time Obsidian makes something. But yeah, like, the new South Park game, it looks cool. It's superheroes instead of fantasy, which I think that's a good idea. Yeah. Because it's, like, you know, the coon stuff.
I hope it's more of an actual game and not just an excuse for dry mechanics, but we'll see.
Then we had the game that wins the award for craziest presenter, which is For Honor. For Honor, it seems like a cool game. It's basically like a medieval 3-on-3 multiplayer thing with like really intricate sword combat. That seems like it's a lot about positioning your sword and doing stances, so it's not mashy combat. It's all about like predicting what the enemy is going to do and like countering it. Who knows how good like those controls will be, but like the idea of it's really cool. But the guy who came out to present it was this crazy motherfucker who basically looked like Alan Moore, like big, long, bushy gray hair and bushy gray beard. He had a cane. He had all these like big rings on his finger. And he just came out on stage just like, ha 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 ha. When you look into yourself, do you see a knight? A Viking? A samurai, perhaps, huh? And his voice sounded almost identical to a Trevor from GTA 5. And he said, because he also kept on saying, like, hey, throughout his fucking presentation. It was crazy. The guy was insane. It was awesome. He did his crazy cackle, like, 3 times when he was up on stage.
That's great.
It was really funny. Because it's like, there was not a lot of really crazy presenters in E3 this year, so It's nice to have someone come out there who seemed like he was certifiably insane and maybe wasn't even employed by Ubisoft, but just like took the stage.
That's great.
Yeah, so there was that guy. They announced an expansion for the Crew, that the open world driving game that nobody liked. So probably nobody will like that.
I keep forgetting it came out.
Yes, there was some weird trailer for a new Trials Fusion game, or like expansion called Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max that did not show anything from the game. They had a unicorn and a cat.
Yay.
Yes. Then, okay, let's talk about The Division a little bit, because this is where The Division showed up again here. The Division looks like that game's going to be really bad to me.
It's gone through too much.
Yeah, it's been too long. They've shown it at like every E3 for like the past 3 years, I think, at this point. It seems like it was really promising at first, but especially after like Watch Dogs was not what I wanted from Watch Dogs. The Division just seems like it is trying to hide what the game actually is at this point, because what the game actually is probably is not that interesting, and trying to like make it all mysterious with your dumb like
Here's what I'll
in-game
say.
chat stuff.
Every time they've shown it, it feels like it's gotten progressively less of an identity.
Yeah, it like just looks more dull, less interesting every time the game gets shown. It's just it's disappointing, because it seemed like an idea that had some promise when they first showed it, and just like it feels like that game is not going to be that good when it comes out. They talked about Ubisoft has this like Civ game basically called Anno 2205. It's just a long running franchise. That was up there. That was that. They had, I think, Jason Derulo is a rapper dude. He was on stage. He did a really bad song because he was actually like, to his credit, he was singing and not lip syncing. But he also seemed like he was really tired and just like gave very bad performance for Just Dance 2016, which is a dancing game. And that's about that. That's all there is to say about that. And Rainbow Six Siege, they have Terrorist Hunt is going to be in it. That was a really good mode. That's like when I said Rainbow Six Vegas 2 was a really great game. I'm basically saying that Terrorist Hunt mode in Rainbow Six Vegas 2 was a great game, because that's all I played. And that was really fun. So that being in Siege seems cool, but there wasn't enough to talk about. Like, it seems like it'll probably be a cool game. Trackmania is a driving game that seems really like crazy. I've never played one of them, but people like those games. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It's another Assassin's Creed game. It looks like they're totally wasting their cool Victorian setting.
Here's the thing. I haven't even watched anything from this because no one talked about it at all. No one tweeted about it. No one wrote articles about it.
There was no live gameplay demos or anything, which usually like at least one of the big guys has a live Assassin's Creed demo on their stage every year.
I'm so disappointed at this point in Assassin's Creed, because I came on to the series.
You came on at the absolute top, like when like it seemed impossible that Assassin's Creed was going to get good again. It got good for one glorious shining moment, and then it just went down the complete shitter, it seems.
Well, it's like they gave up. It's like 4 was so innovative, and it was so different than other open world games, and it was so creative, and it was so just transportative. And then you go to Unity, which was nothing and broken, and Syndicate, which looks like it's nothing and will probably be broken too. And it's like, fuck it. It's like they gave up all creativity.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing with that series.
And then also, I think it's amazing that the production title when the game was leaked, like a couple of months ago, was Assassin's Creed Victory, which is a way better subtitle for this game because it's set in the Victorian era. Yeah. Victory is not like some cliche word for a subtitle. It's like, Assassin's Creed Victory, that's a great fucking title for this game.
Syndicate sounds like the spin-off iOS game.
Exactly! Like, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is such a terrible title for this game. And it feels like they're trying to hide the fact that the main feature of this game is that you're assembling this gang, like, it's like labor disputes and stuff in the Industrial Revolution London. This is like, okay, sure, like if that's the angle you're going for Victorian London, that's a big thing to do. But guess what? You already did the whole we're assembling a big thing, like a bunch of people and recruiting them from my big fucking, like, brotherhood of assassins back in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. That was the big feature for that game. That game came out in like fucking 2010. It's 2015. If you trotted that idea back out and just like trying to fool everyone by calling it Syndicate instead of Brotherhood. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? And then we had what was actually a pretty cool, really long trailer for this new Ghost Recon game called Ghost Recon Wildlands. It seems like it's just like called Ghost Recon because they have the franchise, because it's like, it seems like it's some sort of open world, go like approach these missions in any way you want kind of thing, where you're busting up drug cartels in South America. It's like, that's a cool idea for like a setting that has military, like modern military like trappings, but is not just like, we're in the Middle East and we're part of some like nondescript military campaign. It's like, yeah, busting up some fucking like crazy cocaine cartels and hearing some guy say, we have to get the cocaine. Oh no, they're getting away with the cocaine. Like he's some sort of undercover cop. It's like calls it the cocaine every time he has to say it. Like that seems okay. It's a teaser for a game that'll probably come out in 5 years and be incredibly disappointing like The Division, but
yeah, well.
The trailer was okay. So that was Ubisoft.
Yay. Yeah, Ubisoft and EA, do they even need their own conferences at this point? It's
EA is just like last year EA showed no games at last year's EA3 press conference, and it was still a better press conference. Like everything they showed last year was like, here's like 5 seconds of a Mirror's Edge 2 teaser, here's like the logo for Star Wars Battlefront, and here's a game that's like in crazy pre-production at Criterion that none of the models have textures on it yet, and we're going to show you a video for that. Somehow that was more exciting than what they showed this year, so I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
EA at least should pack it up for a year. Ubisoft just needs to get its shit together in general. Like Ubisoft like had a shining period for a couple of years there where Assassin's Creed was at its height and stuff, and like when they first announced Watch Dogs, where Ubisoft was doing really great for itself, and now it just feels like Ubisoft made Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, which were amazing, made Assassin's Creed 4, which was incredibly surprising and really good, and that's kind of it in terms of like their actual quality output, and they put out a bunch of really generic, derivative, heavily sequelized stuff in between that. You
just listed all these games that I didn't know we were still making these, like Rainbow Six and stuff. I'm just not even on that wavelength, which is...
It's like, I'm waiting for them to make another Splinter Cell game, because Splinter Cell Blacklist was really good.
Okay.
Like, because they wait like 3 or 4 years to make a new Splinter Cell, and every time they've made a new Splinter Cell in the last like 8 years or so, they've been really fucking awesome and like a lot better than the last one. So yeah, Ubisoft, maybe next year there'll be a really cool Splinter Cell, and I'll watch the press conference and get that one trailer.
Alright, well Sony, now we're getting to,
yes.
And we'll say this for Sony, they kicked things off with something we were not expecting to see.
Sony's press conference was crazy in a lot of ways. It started off with...
Definitely surprises.
Yes. It's utterly insane. Like, this whole fucking press conference. Fucking insane. So, The Last Guardian...
Vaporware!
It is real. It exists.
Vaporware rises!
It has manifested. Fucking Fumito Ueda, the guy who made Ico in Shadow of the Colossus and was fucking handcuffed to this game for almost his entire adult life, it seems like, at this point. This guy who's like a creative genius in the video game medium and at the dawn of the 3D era finally gets to put out another fucking video game. It's like the demo itself was kind of whatever. I thought it was like, okay, it looks like The Last Guardian. Like, it's not a game that's ever going to demo well regardless because of the nature of what it is. It's just like, okay, yeah, Last Guardian. I was kind of disappointed that like they didn't just say it's available today. It feels like that's kind of what you needed to do at some point for this.
Yeah.
But they said 2016, so they didn't say it's like, it's going to happen eventually. They've set at least a year for them to hit, so hopefully they actually do it this time. It's like, I did, like, it was a remote possibility that The Last Guardian would show up, but I did not expect it to. So.
Well, but it's just been funny because it's been a remote possibility for several conferences in a row at E3, Gamescom, wherever. Everyone's wondering, is this when we see The Last Guardian? I don't know if there was any indication that this had to be it. And it was funny, and they kicked it off because they knew it's like, this is how we surprise people.
We have to get this out of the way. We have to get people to stop asking us about this fucking game. And it makes sense that at least, like, it's now just fully a PS4 game. So, like, it makes some sense how it took this long at this point, that, like, it was in development hell for long enough that it made more sense to rework a lot of the game just to get it to run on the PS4 instead of the PS3. So it's like, yeah, I will play The Last Guardian. I'm curious about that game. Like, there aren't a lot of games like that. It seems very unique, so excited about that. Then, this was actually the Guerrilla's new game, Horizon Zero Dawn. This was, for me, the best new IP showed, both in terms of, like, my personal interest in the game and just in terms of, like, demoing a brand new game that nobody knew about. This, to me, was the most interesting. It's, basically, the setting is post-apocalypse, that, like, human civilization has fallen, probably due to some sort of robot-related incident, but the human species, Homo sapiens, have reverted to some sort of like nomadic tribal social structure, like we were like tens of thousands of years ago, and so like there's the remnants of sort of like near future human civilization left, but everything is like taken over and mossy, and you have all these people running around with cool, souped-up bows with explosive arrow tips, because it seems like machine life at some point in this future has started replicating actual life and is like evolving into real creatures that are basically amount to robot dinosaurs. So you have a bunch of future cavemen running around with cool metal, awesome bows with explosive tips, hunting giant robot dinosaurs.
Nice.
If that is not the coolest fucking premise for a game, I don't know what is. It hits a lot of buttons for me in terms of like, it seems like they're doing like cool, big, open like boss fights where you have a lot of different tools. The setting is very interesting. It has a lot of promise. It has some sort of like third-person action stealth component to the gameplay, and they showed a long demo of it. Like, I thought it was like really fucking awesome.
Nice. I actually did not. I got to this conference slightly late, so I didn't catch this. That sounds awesome.
It's a really, really great demo. You should watch it. After
I was following this part just on Twitter and stuff, and it does sound cool. I like that they're letting Guerrilla Games go free to make a new...
like, go, Killzone Shadowfall was kind of okay, but not that great. Yeah. It looked really pretty. Go make something new. And then it's like, it's really obvious that like they have been waiting to make this game, because it's like, it just opens up and you're like, oh, it's such a breath of fresh air. It's like, yes, this studio has had so much potential. They've been shackled to this old Killzone franchise for so long.
That no one ever particularly liked.
Yeah, it's like, they're all of those games are pretty good to okay. It's like, whatever. But like, make something new. Flourish, Guerrilla Games. Flourish, you have so much talent in there. Like, make something you want to make. It's like... And if this is what they come out with, at least, like, who knows how good the game is going to be. You always have to keep that in the back of your mind.
But you get points for creativity on this one.
Yeah, but it's like, you fucking made a hell of a showing at the front of this. Like, I kind of wish they had ended with this and, like, put Uncharted 4 here instead and put Horizon at the end of the demo. It's like, because Uncharted 4 is very predictable. It was, like, a great fucking demo. It looked awesome. I'm very excited for Uncharted 4. But, like, this was something new and interesting and big, you know, because obviously there's always going to be a lot of cool-looking new indie games, but it's like... when you're at E3, you really want to see a new IP that people are throwing money at, that has some new ideas, a new setting. This game looks fucking awesome.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Horizon Zero Dawn. Super excited for that. Then moving on, Hitman showed up. It's...
Whatever.
Yeah. We're not even going to talk about it because I don't play Hitman games. Street Fighter V. Street Fighter V will probably be really cool, and I'll never play it because I don't play fighting games. Dreams. Did you see this from Media Molecule?
I think I saw the tail end of it.
If you saw it, you would know, because it was fucking crazy. I have no idea what it is. The guy demoing basically said, like, nobody is going to understand what I am showing here, because these are the Little Big Planet guys.
Yeah.
But it's basically, it seems like it's some sort of, like, you, like, sculpt things and, like, create dreamscapes where, like, logic does not exist, and it's like some weird art thing where they had a guy with a polar bear head playing a piano. It was all like kind of watercolors, and it looked fucking cool.
Yeah, I think
I have no idea what it is.
I think I came in at this, like in the middle of this, because it sounded interesting to me just following Twitter stuff. This sounds like the kind of game, if you know my taste, this is the kind of thing I will like. Because I like weird experimental games. I always have at least a couple of them on my top 10. It's something I'm into.
Yeah,
so
it made a really cool demo, but like a really head scratch. Like he literally said it like 5 times. It's like, I hope that you leave this place scratching your head, because you're not going to get this. It's like, yeah, obviously whatever this game is not going to demo well. I'm really excited to hear about what it is, though.
Well, but that's the thing I like about Sony sometimes, is they're willing to just put out a game that isn't going to demo all that well, but that's part of their identity at this point, and I like that they're owning that.
Yeah, Sony always has at least one thing that's just fucking weird and you have no idea what it is. Yeah. Seeing some of that stuff is always great. So then moving on from Dreams, you had Destiny come out with like the Taken King DLC. That seems cool. This big expansion. There's going to be some PS4 exclusive stuff for a while. Like, this was also kind of around the area of the conference that, like,
I tuned out a little bit here because
you had third-party stuff come up on stage, and it was like, Sony is the leader in the console race right now. They're getting all the third-party deals. All the third parties want to show up on their stage.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. It's like, it's not that interesting, but it's what it is. Firewatch, that game looks really pretty. I think it's basically going to be some sort of like first-person adventure game kind of thing, kind of in the realm of Gone Home. Mm-hmm. Like, not a lot about it, but it looked cool. Okay, here's the second crazy announcement that, like, nobody...
We gotta spend some time on this.
Yeah, nobody ever thought would happen. I certainly didn't think anyone would ever be fucking crazy enough to do.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, which the trailer itself says remake.
Yeah, it's the logo from the back of Final... You know how every Final Fantasy has, like, their crazy font, and then there's, like, some weird picture in the background? It's the picture of the comet from the back of the Final Fantasy VII logo, and then, like, dissolves, and it's like, remake. It's like... What the fuck? What the fuck, dude?
It's big announcement.
Like, how is, like, Square Enix fucking insane enough to remake Final Fantasy VII? Like, I get that
people have wanted it.
People have wanted it. Final Fantasy VII. Like, I'm saying, like, it's cool that they're doing it. Final Fantasy VII deserves to be remade because it's from an era of games that did not age well at all.
Well, can I talk about this for a second?
Yeah,
because after this, I got my Vita out and I've been playing Final Fantasy VII. Right. This is always a game I've wanted to play. I've only played a little of it in the past.
Yeah, me too.
And I gotta say, holy cow, I think there are problems that game has aged. I think it is a phenomenal game. I think, though, its approach to story still feels kind of trailblazing in that it just is off to the races right away. It pushes you along. It's all text-based, but it's so emotional. And it's in this weird, interesting in-between era where it has a lot of the aesthetics of Final Fantasy like 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And it's not yet on that crazy path of 8 and beyond where it introduces that steampunk future stuff, but it has none of the narrative problems those later games have. It's much clearer and simpler.
Final Fantasy VII gets fucking crazy. I've never beaten it, but I know where that story goes.
But here's the thing. From the beginning, it's very simple. It's got Avalanche, Soldier, Sephiroth is a mystery. That's it. It's not, we've got our Pulse and Cocoon and Pulse Falsi and Pulselessy and Cocoonlessy and Cocoon Falsi, and what the fuck are we talking about? I don't know. And modern Final Fantasy games are totally humorless.
Yes.
All of that. 7 very much feels like the platonic ideal of this kind of Final Fantasy VII game. It's got a very weird graphical style because it was the very beginning of 3D gaming.
Yes.
As you know, that's just a time in gaming I'm fascinated with. I love, learning about that and Super Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time and Sonic Adventure. All these iconic 2D games that went to 3D and how did they do it?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And Final Fantasy VII took, honestly, one of the weirder approaches in being kind of a mix of these things. So it's a game that you kind of have to get your head around now, but it's actually pretty easy to do, I think, because the gameplay is so good and the story is so good. But yeah, it looks dated. The thing is, I'm not sure how you remake it other than doing a complete and total revamp. You have to
remake the. You do not update the game.
No,
you have to remake the game. It's the same thing like when that Resident Evil remake came out on the GameCube, because Final Fantasy VII, most of what Final Fantasy VII is graphically are JPEGs, basically.
Yes.
Like they're 2D images. That's all the backgrounds in that game are 2D images. So it's like you cannot up-res that. You have to completely remake it.
You have to completely remake it, but I also think just some of the way it does story, some of the way it pushes you through levels and stuff, it's not just remake. You're going to have to rethink how that game plays.
Sure, yeah.
And I wonder if that's what people want. Like, there's 2 hours into the game, Cloud is cross-dressing to get into a brothel to save Tifa.
Yeah. Some of the weirdest stuff, yeah.
What do you do with that now? I mean, this game is so far away from where Square is with their storytelling now. I don't think Final Fantasy fans today would like this game now.
But that's
so different.
That's kind of like the thing that's exciting about them remaking it is that it's like, because it's something where I played probably like the first 5 hours of Final Fantasy VII, and I enjoyed what I played, but I couldn't get all the way into it. Mostly because honestly, like the graphics turned me off so much that it was hard to dedicate myself to the amount of time it takes to play that game when there's other stuff to play. And so like the idea of them remaking it with like graphics that, I don't necessarily need it to look like the most like modern, crazy, like hyper fidelity game, but I do want it to I need the game to at least look appealing and to sort of engage my visual senses in a way that Final Fantasy VII does not anymore for me.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to play Final Fantasy VII. I'm excited for that remake, but I'm also excited about the idea, like you said, that like Final Fantasy VII is still in the era with Square where even if they do get crazy at the end, and all those Final Fantasy IV, they go to the moon at the fucking end of the game.
Just a thing.
They all get crazy, but the journey along the way is so fun because they got the storytelling back then that they really started to lose around Final Fantasy VIII. I didn't like Final Fantasy X. Fuck that game. Final Fantasy 13. I just didn't even want to touch anything in that franchise by the time Final Fantasy 13 came out and what people talked about it, because it's I can't stand where they went with the storytelling. But remaking Final Fantasy VII and reintroducing new people to Final Fantasy VII and what made that game legendary, what made that game a game that has influenced everything that came after it in that genre and basically all other genres, what made that game the game that has the Bruce Willis is a ghost version of spoilers for games with Eris. That's Final Fantasy VII is a huge game. It deserves to be remade, and it's cool that they're fucking putting in the effort for it, and it's a huge amount of effort because not only is that game you have to completely rebuild it basically to remake it, but it came from an era where game development was a lot cheaper than it is now. So that game is a lot longer than most games are, and has a lot more stuff in it than most games do because those assets are like 2D JPEGs. They were a lot easier to generate back in the day. So it's like,
well, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It makes me so curious because I really do think any remake of 7 at this point will be a different game. Like, it will be inspired by. It'll be based on, but it will not be like playing the original Final Fantasy VII. It'll be a different experience.
Yeah, like they're going to have to, like, because it's something where I've seen some people say this, like, well, of course they are remaking Final Fantasy VII. Everyone's been yelling about it. It's got to, like, they're just remaking an old game. And I think it's like, those people don't understand. It's like, no.
It's a huge
remaking
undertaking.
Final Fantasy VII is a crazy fucking thing to do. There's a reason why they have never fucking done it up till now. Like, it's been forever. I mean, when the Final Fantasy VII remakes rumors really started in earnest was like back in 2006 when they had that tech demo for the PS3. Yeah. They like redid the opening of Final Fantasy VII on like PS3 graphics, and it was like, oh, they're going to remake Final Fantasy VII. It's like, no, because that's fucking crazy. That's completely insane.
It's going to be really interesting to see how they do it. I mean, this game is so old in some ways, it doesn't even have voice acting. It's like that kind of stuff that you're going to have to read.
The translation really sucked too, like the original translation. They're going to have to retranslate it. They're going to, like, I presume they're going to have to get voice actors for all the characters. I guess I wonder if like they're going to get the voice actors they got for Advent Children back, that movie.
Hope not.
I don't even remember. Like, I watched that movie.
You did?
Point. Yeah,
okay.
I was at a friend's house who's like was super into Final Fantasy VII. They had it. I was like, I didn't understand anything that was going on in that movie. I don't remember anything about it.
It's definitely interesting. And
how great would it have been if the Final Fantasy VII reveal was actually just Advent Children 2? Like, they did all that build up. It's like you're slowly... Because I should also say, like, the trailer they put out, like, the reveal was really well done. Because it's like, you could kind of guess going into it what it was going to be. But, like, there's always that doubt. And it, like, there's no full on, like, this absolutely must be Final Fantasy VII until you get basically to the end of the reveal. Yeah. Like, it was well done. If you get to the end, it says remake, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess they're actually doing it.
Now, here's the question.
Yes.
In their press release that comes out with this, they said, we have begun development on Final Fantasy VII. How long until we actually see this?
I have no idea. I have no idea what it's going to be, how they're going to go about remaking it. It could be fucking forever.
Yeah.
And that's like some of the weird thing about the Sony press conference compared to the Microsoft one is I thought Sony had way bigger, more insane, more exciting announcements, but everything they showed is like 2016 or later. Microsoft had more tame but still interesting announcements, but all of them were for like the foreseeable future. And a couple of things reaching into 2016.
And that's honestly why I got more excited for a lot of the Xbox stuff, because it's like, look, I can play this soon. I know it's coming. There's a lot of variables in the PlayStation stuff.
Yeah, and for me, the reason why I like the Sony one is because it's like, I like it when E3's completely insane, because I'm going to be busy enough this fall playing fucking Fallout 4 and Persona 5, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm going to spend probably a week of my life trying to figure out what my top 10 games of the year is going to be at the end of this fucking year.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got enough on my plate. I want to see what fucking crazy shit you people are doing.
Wait, do we really think Persona 5's coming out this year for us?
Atlas has said that Persona 5 is coming out this year for North America. Like, who knows if like that might get pushed, but...
I kind of hope it gets pushed.
Yeah.
Because that alone is such a commitment.
Yes, right?
God. There's too much stuff coming out this fall.
Right?
Jesus.
This year got fucking crazy all of a sudden. Like, I thought like, oh, this fall is going to be kind of sparse for video games before E3. And it's like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to live my life this fall.
I got to graduate from college this fall. Jesus, okay.
The things that I'm going to have to do.
Persona 5 comes first. Let's just be honest.
It's the most important thing. There was also some... This is actually before they did Final Fantasy VII. There's some World of Final Fantasy thing.
Yeah, who cares?
I have no idea what that game is.
Yeah, no one cares. Yeah. What else?
Okay, yeah, Shenmue. Yeah, okay.
This was the big other one.
This is something... This is... When I said that it's insane that they're making Final Fantasy VII, that doesn't even fucking compare to the idea that they're going to make, like, Shenmue 3 is going to happen. That is
like one of those holy grails.
That is like they're putting Firefly back on the air. That's like... And maybe even crazier than that. It's like, and like if Firefly had never gotten Serenity, you know, the movie.
And Shenmue 2 is older.
Yes, Shenmue 2 came out in 2001. Shenmue 1 was 1999.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It's been
14 years in the making. Yu Suzuki, kind of like with Ueda, like one of these fundamental developers in terms of like more artistic games, like the Shenmue... Okay, here's the thing about Shenmue. I have not played Shenmue. I've listened to the fuck out of the Shenmue soundtrack because it was on the list of like the best game soundtracks of all time. Like 2 years ago, I listened to that soundtrack. It's a really good soundtrack. Everyone should listen to that soundtrack. That is the most exposure I have to Shenmue personally. But I know about like the
legend of Shenmue.
The legend of Shenmue, the story, like not the story of Shenmue the game, but the story about Shenmue the game and its development and its place in the history of video games. Is that people always say this stupid thing every time a big new game comes out. It's like, oh, The Last of Us is the Citizen Kane of video games. And they keep like, what's going to be the Citizen Kane of video games? People should stop asking that question because guess what? It already happened. It happened in 1999. Shenmue 1 is the fucking Citizen Kane of video games. It is this crazy fucking game, like absolutely revolutionary, way ahead of its time, changed the way that video games are made. Because it's a game in 1999, back when video games were just games, and Shenmue was an open world like life simulator where you like explored this town, you like your character got a job, like interact, like you had full NPCs that had like backstories for themselves, personalities, names, like actual characters that inhabited this world had their own stories. Like you had your quest to like find out, like avenge your father's murder and all this stuff. Like just games were not like that in 1999. Games were not like that until like 2006, and this game started being like what Shenmue was trying to be back then. Like Shenmue, absolutely way ahead of its time, completely revolutionary. Also a game that like crazy because it started development in like 1993 or 94 when Sega was kind of like at the height of like what Sega could be, and so they gave Yu Suzuki, the developer who like had already made some of the best arcade games that Sega had. They gave him like almost like carte blanche to make his game, which that's one of the things about Citizen Kane is that RKO gave Orson Welles this like kind of unprecedented contract of complete creative control for his own movie, which is not something that ever happened in the studio system back then, especially for an unknown director who's in his early 20s, you know? So it's like you give this like creative genius and his team of creative geniuses like carte blanche to make the thing they want to make. They get to make it. Guess what? It's not financially successful. It does not do well for like a variety of different reasons. But it completely changes what that art form can and could be, and people who played that game, fucking, there's like a cult that follows Shenmue. There's a reason why Shenmue on Kickstarter has now accrued $3 million in like not even 2 days.
Yeah.
But it's like, you just don't have this happen. You don't have like this thing that like this incredible artistic achievement, like this landmine achievement in the history of video games, like something that like it's like one in a decade, like it's not one in like 20 years kind of thing for an art form happen that then obviously is not going to be actually financially successful, and then someone come out and say it's like, well, hey, like Yu Suzuki never got to like even get close to finish what he was finishing, what he was trying to do with Shenmue. He's been trying to get this game made for 14 fucking years. This guy who is like a foundational creator for modern 3D video games who's not been able to make anything like significant for years and years. He's been stuck making shitty fucking Japanese mobile games for the past like 5 years. Like, let's get this guy out on stage and like let's try to actually fucking do the thing that never happens, which is like put the art above the money. It's like, and obviously like there's a lot of stuff to talk about with the Kickstarter, but like Shenmue 3, the idea that they're making this game is probably not going to be financially successful no matter how crazy the Shenmue fan base is going to be. It's probably not going to make all its money back, honestly. Like, because obviously the game's not going to take $2 million to make. Like, everyone knows that. It's like the idea that they're making Shenmue 3, like, even as someone who's never played the Shenmue games but has always wanted to, so like I hope they must at some point come out with like an HD version update for those on the PS4. The idea that they're making Shenmue 3, like, it kind of gives me hope for humanity in a way of just like, it's a moment where the business part is not the most important part. It's the part where it's like, let's fucking let this game be made for once. Like, let's let this thing happen for once. Let's like be the guys who like stand up for the show that's going to get canceled, and like be this company that will stand up for this thing that should happen, who will listen to our fans. We made this promise of like, everyone tell us what games you want us to come out and bring back, and like what projects you want us to save. And the largest reaction was Shenmue. And I never expected Sony would actually get out there and fucking do it. And Sony went out there and they motherfucking did it, you know?
No, and I agree with all of what you just said. I think it really is amazing. I was just checking if Shenmue was on anything. It's not.
No, the Shenmue 1 was a Dreamcast game. Shenmue 2 came out on Xbox over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I agree with all that. You guys know my thoughts on Kickstarter. I think it's become a really skeevy, toxic thing. When it's something like this where a corporation that has all the money in the world comes out and says, go fund our project because it has been confirmed. Sony is co-financing this thing, and they're probably going to put in significantly more than $2 million. This is just shilling the fans, and I hate that kind of thing. It's the Veronica Mars thing again that I find really... Because it would happen without the Kickstarter the way they're doing it. Are you sure?
No, there's absolutely no way. Again... Shenmue lost a huge amount of money.
Okay.
Shenmue 2 lost a huge amount of money. This is not again, this project is probably not going to make its money back if history is an indicator. Like, this project would not have happened. Like, the way that Kickstarter happens sometimes is with a project like this that is going to take, like, Shenmue 1, I think, had a budget of like $65 million back in 1999, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy money back then. Like, this game is not going to take $2 million to make. Like, it's going to take way more than that. Even if they're not trying to be as ambitious, they're probably not going to be as ambitious as they were back in the day with the original Shenmue games. But what this does is it proves to investors and funding, because Sony is a public company, like they have to, bring this stuff to their public investors. It shows that there is a legitimate interest in this game. It's not just people on Twitter saying they like Shenmue. It's people paying like $10,000 for the jacket that the original voice actor for the main character wore to all the press events. That's the same jacket that the character had. Like, it's that level of commitment, and just
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Here's what happens though when it gets funded immediately overnight and it's clear the money is there. Why don't you then say, we don't need the Kickstarter, we'll fund this? Why are you still taking the money from the fans when it's not? That's a drop in the bucket.
Sure, but it's also does Kickstarter even work that way? Can you just stop the quick Kickstarter?
Sure,
campaign?
you don't have to. They don't collect it until it's funded. There's 30 days to go. Money doesn't come out for another 30 days.
Yeah, I kind of see your point with that, but it's also, it is something where at some point, let the fans do, let the people do what they want to do with it.
No, it's fine.
They're aware of the risk. It's something where it's for most projects, like for the Veronica Mars kind of thing, I kind of agree with you. But to me, Shenmue 3 is so significant. It's so, amazing that this is actually happening.
Shenmue 3 matters a lot more than Veronica Mars. Because Veronica Mars ended, it was fine, and then people just couldn't shut up about it.
Yeah, Shenmue is this, thing that, if Shenmue 3 had never happened, it would be something where 50 years from now you have the people that are the first proper video game historians, the way you have film historians now, and they look back at it as look at this tragic project that was cut short in its prime that revolutionized everything. What could video games be if this hadn't happened to it? It's that kind of thing. It's Shenmue 3 needs to happen. And I agree, it's kind of weird when you have Kickstarter up there. Like the Kickstarter logo on the Sony press conference, and that the whole thing itself was them announcing the Kickstarter for Shenmue 3, which is a project that Sony is co-financing and lending some support for and marketing for, but is not a Sony project. It is technically a Sega project because Sega still owns it, and Suzuki's still working for Sega. But it's that part is a little bit skeevy, but it's you have to make some business concessions.
The good outweighs the bad. I totally agree with that.
By a incredible margin to me. That's
No, as you say, this incredible director who deserved to be doing good projects is being let out of jail, so to speak, creative jail, to go do his thing again. Yeah. That's awesome.
And it was something that was really cool about the Sony press conferences, is that the three huge reveals they had were all for Japanese games, where it's Japan has been out of the big major prime game development for a number of years now. That's really cool to see. It's fucking Ueda, who made Shadow of the Colossus, he gets to make his video game. There he is at E3. It's the Final Fantasy VII, which is one of the greatest Japanese games of all time. They're doing Goodbye the Remake. It's fucking Yu Suzuki is up on stage at E3 in fucking 2015 to announce Shenmue 3. That's crazy and amazing to me. It's and again, it's something where it's Shenmue 3 could come out and be a complete crap game, or could even not come out, and it almost doesn't matter to me right now. It's what matters to me is that Sony is out there doing right by this kind of stuff, and is it makes Sony seem like a bunch of people who love video games and not like a company to me. Mm-hmm. It's that one glorious moment where it's these are human beings, they are passionate about video games. To a lot of the people at Sony, and specifically the Sony Games portion, they are actually dedicated and passionate about what they're doing, and they really care about it as an art form. And that's what Shenmue 3 says to me. It's fucking amazing.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and move on and finish out Sony. there's only one really big thing, I feel like.
Yeah, I think there's like, there's like Call of Duty. Like, let's just like run through all that stuff. Devolver was out there. They just kind of showed like a quick like trailer with a bunch of indie games. So Assassin's Creed Syndicate is going to have exclusive DLC. That's, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Who gives a shit? Sony expands their PlayStation View thing for TV. Like, that's kind of whatever. No Man's Sky, still No Man's Sky.
Looks good.
Morpheus is going to be a VR headset. Like, it doesn't demo well, so they only had it up there for like 3 minutes, which is probably the smart thing. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is going to have map packs come out first for PS4, which is traditionally that's a Microsoft thing, so that's kind of... it's probably a combination of Call of Duty is not as important as it once was, and Microsoft is not as strong in the market as it once was. Those things combined too.
That was Sony's big nya moment.
Yeah, sure, basically. And as someone who really liked Advanced Warfare, I'm kind of excited about Black Ops 3. Some of the stuff they were doing seems kind of cool. Disney Infinity 3.0, the Star Wars edition, is going to have exclusive stuff for PlayStation 4.
Yay.
Star Wars Battlefront is going to have some exclusive stuff for PlayStation 4.
Yay.
And actually, I should say that the demo for Star Wars Battlefront on the Sony conference was way better than the one they gave for the
It was really good. I liked it a lot.
It was like the co-op thing was a lot more interesting than the Hoth. Because they showed Hoth at the EA one. It's like, I get it that Hoth is like the big Star Wars thing, but like every fucking Star Wars game has the Hoth battle. And so it's like, eyes kind of glaze over like when I see for the 500th time a digital representation of the land speeder like tripping the AT-AT. It's like,
I've seen it.
Yeah, that was more interesting. The Sony one was more interesting. So then they ended with their Uncharted 4 demo, which also had, like, the beginning of the demo. It's kind of, another thing that's kind of, like, heartwarming to me is, like, the demo crapped out because they're clearly doing a live demo and it fucked up on stage and they probably ended up having to cut to, like, a video recording of it. So it's like, hey, they're actually trying to play that game on stage. This isn't some bullshit. Like, Uncharted 4 actually exists and it looks the way that it looks right now in a playable form. And you know that for sure because there's no way anyone would embarrass themselves on stage like that intentionally.
Right. And I'll say this. I have never played an Uncharted game. I would like to. I've just never found the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll play Uncharted 4. It might just not be in the wheelhouse for me.
Sure.
Just with time and stuff. However, this was the demo I was most impressed with at E3 just because I think on whatever level, like people are arguing, how much is this actually playable? How much of this is scripted that we're seeing, whatever. But the action sequence they put together for this demo is masterful. That would not be out of place in a Steven Spielberg Indiana Jones movie, and that is the highest praise I can give it. Mm-hmm. And my heart was pounding by the end. I felt like I had been dropped into the middle of a great action classic, and that's incredible.
And that's what, like, Uncharted at its peak does, Like, it gives you that same feeling. That's what it's trying to do. And and just, like, on a technical level, Uncharted 4 was by far the most impressive game shown at E3, I feel. Because there's just, like... Naughty Dog, man, like those guys are fucking crazy. They are like when people call some developers tech wizards, it's like Naughty Dog is kind of the only developer that I feel like truly just earns that title because it's like every time Naughty Dog comes out with a new game, it's like, man, this is just like a whole notch above like everything else that is coming out on these consoles. Like Uncharted 4 just looks crazy good. It's something where it's like, it's weird that I like had some severe problems with Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 just in terms of the gameplay when I played them. But when I think about those games now, like a year later, like I'm kind of nostalgic about them in a weird way where it's like the crappy moments in terms of some of like the iffy like combat with like the cover stuff, that kind of like fades away in your memory. And I just remember it's like, like at the beginning of the trailer, Sully, who's like, Nathan's like buddy who's in all the games, like he comes out, it's the same voice actor and everything. I'm like, fuck yeah, it's Sully. Like he's a great character. And there's Nathan and he's amazing and he's doing all this crazy shit and it makes me remember it's like, oh man, remember in Uncharted 2 when you were like jumping from Jeep to Jeep and beating the shit out of these guys and like running on this train and the train falls off and you have to climb up the train and you're in this collapsing building. There's that crazy fucking shit in Uncharted 3 where the mansion was burning down and you had to get out and it was like, those games are fucking rad as shit. It's like the one part about them that was not particularly good was the cover-based combat. But I loved the combat in Last of Us. The demo they gave when they announced Uncharted 4 was a lot more combat heavy than this was like more the kind of like scripted action sequence part of it. And the combat in that seemed a lot better. So it's like if they make an Uncharted game that's as good as 2 and 3 in terms of like this like action spectacle and story and character element, but also has like as good of a combat system as Last of Us had, like Uncharted 4 is going to be fucking awesome, Yeah. I'm actually really surprised that I'm as excited for Uncharted 4 as I am. Because it's like I want new games, I want new IPs, I want Naughty Dog to do new stuff, But everything they've shown about Uncharted 4 just looks really amazing to me.
And they will be doing new stuff. This is the end, and I think that it's in the title.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool that they're allowing them to really build this and just say, look, we're ending this franchise.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on and do other things, but we're clearly going out on top.
Yes, yeah. Uncharted 4, looking really good. Good demo to end the conference on, even if I do wish they had ended it with Horizon, so it's like you come out with something brand new.
Brand new, but I also think for the larger public, this was a mic drop kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a better demo for like the broader public because it's more like appealing.
I mean, the last moment of that where Nathan Drake is hanging from the truck.
He throws his fucking grappling hook to the back of that truck, and he's fucking flying under the bridge and like just about to smack into that wood. It's like, holy fuck, man!
That is confidence. That's what I will say. Is that is confidence, and then it just looks great. So
yeah. And also, there's like the vehicle stuff is. Like, there's been a little bit of it, but, like, I thought it was kind of cool that, like, the action sequence with this big, you're driving a Jeep thing, which is not something that Uncharted has ever really done, like, in terms of, like, control. So that seems cool, too.
All right, let's make fun of Nintendo.
Yes.
And you know what? Let me start with some praise, because I want to say this. Nintendo does have a couple games in their lineup right now that I'm looking forward to. I think Yoshi's Woolly World looks like a fun little game. It doesn't look mind-blowing. It looks like a fun Nintendo platformer with some creative visuals.
Sure, yeah.
Super Mario Maker looks kind of mind-blowing to me. I think that's a really cool tool they've created. It looks like you can create some really fun stuff with it, and I am excited to play that game. And I think their little demos for both of those were really nice. I thought the one where the woman was showing the little yarn Yoshis and talking about the game, that was just nice and comfortable.
She's sitting there, it's like, they've had me in a factory in the back making yarn amiibos for 5 years now.
Yes.
Someone please save me.
And one of the highlights of all of E3 for me was watching Miyamoto and the other guy reminisce about when they would make Mario levels, and they had their graph paper there. That is just a nice little piece of gaming history to look at.
And I'm sitting there looking at it, it's like, you need to give all that shit to like a museum or something so that they can take care of it. Like, it made me remember, it's like, Nintendo really needs to like hire someone to make like a really high production documentary about them or something at some point, just like preserve some of this stuff for like posterity's sake.
Well, absolutely, because it's historic, and just hearing Miyamoto talk about his philosophy of game design and why he made 1-1 the way he did, and why he made 2-2 the way he did, and then
the fact that his favorite levels are the underwater levels, which are the ones I hate. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, and then talking about how that applies to Super Mario Maker. That's the best pitch for that game you could ever give. Now, all that being said, these are games I've known about forever.
Yes.
They're games I was going to play anyway.
They're games that both debuted last year on their E3 thing, and both had significant time dedicated to them.
Yes.
Last year.
And everything, and there were other nice little demos they showed. Like the new Mario & Luigi game looks fine. I like the integration of the Paper Mario stuff.
Yes. Every time I see Paper Mario, I get really happy in my heart. Even then, I remember what they did with Paper Mario, and I get a little sad.
Yeah, and there are some cute. There was a lot of cute little games and stuff, but there was nothing mind blowing. There was nothing particularly new, and there was nothing that made the whole thing worthwhile. This felt like a slightly overlong average Nintendo Direct you'd get randomly in April. You know, it didn't feel like anything that was going toe to toe with anyone else. And if anything, it just made their slate look kind of pathetic because there's nothing big. There's nothing. There's no injection going on that everyone else is trying to get.
And there's not even something like small that's big. Like I said earlier, last year coming out of the E3, the Nintendo video that they did, the E3 Direct or whatever you're going to call these things, like. My biggest frustration with Nintendo is that they have all these great franchises, that they do right by their franchises most of the time, but they just don't make anything brand new. It just never fucking happens. And last year, they debuted Splatoon. It came out earlier, like a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, I don't have a Wii U, so I can't play it, so this is like all like hypothetical on my part. But like looking at the reviews for Splatoon, it seems like Splatoon is exactly what like I was hoping it could be, where it's like, you know, it seems like the people have criticisms about the online multiplayer component in terms of like
how it works.
Yeah, the way the online works doesn't have all the features that you'd expect it to have in like the Call of Duty era. But the core gameplay, everyone seems to absolutely adore. Everyone's talking about how it's like it's rethinking the way that multiplayer shooters can work, that it doesn't have to be like hyper-violent, cover-based stuff. Like, you can do different things with the basic mechanics of shooters and make a different kind of experience. It's like, that's the kind of shit I want Nintendo to make. I don't want them to come out and be like, we're making a bunch of spin-offs of our main franchises, and then we're making another Star Fox game. It's like, I can't stand this. Like, they keep on doing this year after year. There was one bright, shining moment, which is Splatoon, but that was a smaller title that, like, is not a big thing. They didn't give a lot of attention to it. It's like, and then this year you come in, like, hoping there's going to be another Splatoon-esque announcement, and there's just absolutely nothing. Like, that aspect of the press conference completely falls flat.
I agree with all of that, but I think you can go even more basic, which is that they're not even doing particularly good by their existing franchises now, because Zelda didn't even get a mention. They didn't say...
I mean, that game's so far away. They made such a big mistake at revealing it when they did, because it's too far away. There's probably nothing new to show about it.
I agree, but it's just... It felt like that was abandoned. There's also not a new Mario game on the horizon, like an actual mainline... because the Wii U Mario game we have is a spin-off sequel to the one on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but where's, the next Galaxy or something? Or 3D Land, for that matter, which was the next of those. So where's that, and it's okay if it's not here yet, but of those two, you kind of have a Star Fox thing, but to me, I'm not sure what that Star Fox game is. It feels kind of...
Star Fox Zero.
Well, I know what it's called.
It's the super prequel to Star Fox 64, the 64th Star Fox game.
Yes. But it's like... I don't know if you've read all the reports on that game.
I mean, don't think it's going to be a good game at all.
No, I still can't figure out what it is. Like, it's very confusing what the control scheme is, and it's nothing new with Star Fox. It's another pseudo remake of 64. So I'm kind of fed up with that. And then all their other franchises that have been kind of neglected over the years.
Metroid, F-Zero.
I can't. The Metroid trolling here pissed me the fuck off.
That was the most hilarious part.
I'm a huge Metroid fan. I think it's criminal that they're not using the Wii U's power to make a new Metroid game and give us something good in that universe, because that is one of their best franchises. Probably over the years their most innovative franchise.
And there's a lot of stuff you could do with the gamepad. Like the possibilities really spring to mind with specifically for the Wii U,
Yeah. And no, we're getting a 3DS game it's even lesser than Metroid Prime Pinball, because at least in Metroid Prime Pinball, you are Samus in the ball. Yeah. In this, Samus isn't even a part of it. What connection to Metroid does this have?
It's not even a Metroid game. That was the part that was fucking hilarious about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it comes up and it's like, I'm looking at it, it's like, this, it's a first person thing and you have like a gun arm down to the bottom right, but nothing about this looks like Metroid. Like, if you did not have the Metroid logo and like the Metroid Prime thing there, I would just assume it's a brand new, weird little eShop game for the 3DS,
which would be better, right?
Yes,
because at least that's exactly. A new. And so it's just this E3 felt particularly spin-offy because we had no new mainline entries in anything except Star Fox, and it's another 64 game, so whatever. But then. So you have, so they had the Animal Crossing portion, and they had one on the DS. I'm like, is this a new Animal Crossing 3DS game? That could be something. No, it's a spin-off game where you make your homes. Okay.
It's the Animal Crossing... Actually, they have two Animal Crossing amiibo games, I guess, because that one has, the House Maker game. Right. They have a bunch of, amiibo cards or some bullshit now. And
then they did the Wii U one. I'm like, oh, are they finally making a Wii U Animal Crossing in 3D with a lot of nice, HD... No, this is a Mario Party game with Animal Crossing characters.
It's not even a Mario Party game. It's part of, It seems like it's the style of this, weird... Japanese board game thing called Fortune Street, which is kind of like Mario Party, but with no mini games. It's just like,
oh god,
because there were, if you paid attention, there were no mini games shown in the Animal Crossing one. So it's like,
and it all looks kind of cute for a minute, but it's like these aren't real games. Like, where are your actual game games?
Well, don't worry, they're making another Mario Tennis game, so. They're making the fifth sequel to one of their Mario spin-off franchises.
They're doing that, at this point, I think those Mario and Luigi games are very good as Mario RPGs. There's been too many of them at this point. They need to find a new thing to do with their RPG Mario stuff. So that's not anything. It's just, it was so...
It's also really offensive to me that, Paper Mario is somehow taking backstage to Mario and Luigi, where to me it's like, oh, fuck you. Paper Mario is way better than the Mario and Luigi stuff. I mean, those games were okay. I played a couple of them. It's like, Paper Mario... was fucking amazing, man. This should be a Paper Mario game. And then, the Mario and Luigi guys are in the background and going, how cool is Paper Mario? He's so much cooler than us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, even on that baseline of what you expect from Nintendo of new entries in their main series, you didn't even get that. Yeah. The most basic Nintendo move, we didn't even get that. And again, there are some cool things coming out. I think Super Mario Maker is an awesome idea that seems uniquely suited to the Wii U. It'll be really fun.
But it's also it seems.
But
really
we've known
cool.
about it forever.
Yeah, we've known about it forever. And it also, at the end of the day, it is like a level editor game. It's a little Big Planet style game. It's that feels like a weird thing to like be the linchpin announcement.
I agree.
Gears of War 4, it's your Uncharted 4. It's a level editor game, and that's awesome. It, like they showed some of that stuff at like that Nintendo Championship thing they did like before the Bethesda conference, and that's like the levels that were made looked fucking cool. Mario Maker looks really cool, but it is not like a proper Mario game, you know.
And that's why I just wonder. Again, if Zelda has clearly they've changed their plans for that, and it's been pushed back way far.
It might even be pushed back too. If they're talking about the NX thing, their like Wii U replacement next year, which is what they basically said in this video. I suspect that Legend of Zelda is either going to just be for that, or it's going to be some weird Twilight Princess thing all over again.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Is it going to
flip the screen,
right, where it gets Twilight Princess, and in that case, the Wii U will have gotten lapped for Zelda. It will have never gotten a Zelda game.
Yeah, and then also it would be really disconcerting if that happened due to like. Then how strong is the NX if you're just able to like do both of them? Because the way that Twilight Princess was able to work is that guess what, the Wii and the GameCube are basically the same console, like in terms of like the raw graphical power. So that's why you could just do that.
Who knows? And this is the tough thing. I don't know what the NX is or how far along it is or what their plans for it are. But the problem is that if it does come out for the Wii U, and they're planning this NX soon enough, it'll be the tail end and it'll be a Skyward Sword situation where people talk about it for a week and then it's gone. And Skyward Sword, no one talks about that game because it came out at the end of a dead console's life.
Yeah, and a lot of Zelda fans, like some Zelda fans really loved it, but a lot of them really jumped the boat on like saying that it's like it has not fixed the problems that Zelda has had. It was too handholdy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I just don't know what they're doing. I mean, the Wii U has just been under-supported from them, too, in a lot of ways. I mean, I love Super Mario 3D World, the one that came out for it, but ultimately the Wii U will have never had what I would consider a big Mario game, because that is a sequel to a 3DS game, and I honestly might have preferred to have it on 3DS where you could have the 3D feature that is key to that game's graphical stuff. Right. And, where is the Galaxy or the Sunshine or the 64,
Exactly. Hopefully it's not a Sunshine.
Hopefully it's not a Sunshine, but even then,
even if it was a Sunshine, it would be better than nothing because at least it'd be trying something.
Yes, I will.
Sunshine's not like irredeemably bad. It's disappointing.
And I respect Sunshine for trying something different. It failed utterly, but Yes. And I say that as a big Mario fan.
After the Nintendo conference, something compelled me to watch the. I forget what reminded me of it. It was like something made me watch the last cutscene for Super Mario Sunshine, which has the voice acting for Bowser. It just reminded me, it's like, Super Mario Sunshine. Fuck that game, man.
Yeah, so Nintendo's showing was just pathetic, and it was so pathetic that you got to the end. What game did they close with?
I'm pretty sure it was Mario Maker.
You're correct. It was Mario Maker. And then they were just done, and I think everyone was confused, including the people on the stream. Like, are we really... That's it? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the stream that I was watching with commentary, because they were like, okay, like, I guess let's talk about what just happened.
Yeah.
So, I think we've covered basically most of it. Anything else you want to say about Woolly World? Like,
No, we got it at a release date. I might play it if it sounds good. It does look like an interesting game. I hope it's good. Mario Maker is the only big Nintendo game this year I'm looking forward to. And the other two things I need to mention.
I was going to say there's a couple things we missed.
Fire Emblem Fates. Yes. That's Fire Emblem If. It got renamed Fates here.
Yeah.
I still like Fire Emblem If because it's crazy in Japanese.
Yeah. But that title was never going to come over here.
That trailer was good.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool fucking trailer.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened in it, but it had like some crazy deer god or something staring at a princess.
And the press release says they are doing the same thing here they're going to do in Japan with the two versions of the game. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
They showed more Shin Megami Tensei Crossfire Emblem.
Okay, but here's the thing.
I still don't understand what that game is.
Well, but here's the thing. When you watch the trailer, it's so different from the last big trailer they showed. I had no idea what game it was.
I didn't either. Like, I didn't even know when they showed the logo because they showed the Japanese title for it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know until the people on the stream I was watching said, "Oh, this must be Shin Megami Tensei Crossfire." And I'm like,
but that's the thing. Oh. A lot of people, like the live blogs I was following, they didn't know either, and they had to refer to a press release that came out with the stream, and they're like, "Okay, this is what it is," and it's actually been renamed Fire Emblem Shin Megami Tensei. The X is gone.
Oh, really?
It's weird. So, and now it's got some music component. I don't know. That game looks crazy, but in a good way. I'm excited for it.
It's something where it's like, I don't understand how it's called. Like, it just looks like a Shin Megami Tensei spinoff. Like, that's what... I don't know where the Fire Emblem comes in. It's a bunch... it's a JRPG with a bunch of high school kids summoning shit to fight like demons or something, like something that they're fighting. That's just a Shin Megami Tensei spinoff. Like, that's all that game is to me.
Well, they clearly showed less, like the last trailer they did at whatever that was, they had a lot more gameplay.
Yeah, there's a lot more like combat stuff.
And as I said then, I think it's mixing the tactical stuff with this, so that's where that's going to come in. But this trailer was a little baffling because they didn't clearly indicate what the game was.
Yeah.
Which was funny.
And again, like, because it has like a really crazy title in Japanese, I don't remember what it is, but it's like a much more elaborate title. It's just like, it just comes at the end of the trailer, it's like, this is a Japanese title, it's like, that's not... There's no indication of what this game is for the English audience.
But it's just this overall. I mean, this year
they showed Xenoblade Chronicles X again for like the 4th E3 in a row.
Yeah, I don't care. But no, it's okay. I mean,
yeah, I don't care either. That's why I was thinking it's like it's one of the weird things. It's like it's how desperate Nintendo was. Is that like most of the games they showed are all games that have already been showed.
Yeah,
you know? like Fire Emblem.
And here's the thing. Apart from Super Mario Maker, there's really nothing coming out on 3DS or Wii U I'm enthusiastic for in the year 2015. And in fact, with the 3DS, it's even more dire because I can't name one game coming out on the 3DS the rest of this year at all. I don't know what's coming out. I know next year we're finally going to get Fire Emblem Fates and Bravely Second and some of those.
Metroid Prime Federation Force heading to the 3DS in 2016.
Oh, God, okay. Even that's 2016. There you go. But... So maybe they'll have a good year next year, but boy, they were just kind of throwing 2015 under the bus.
Oh, I totally forgot. Are you excited about playing Hyrule Warriors on your 3DS?
No, and they had another one that was like a Four Swords spinoff.
Yeah, Triforce, The Legend of Zelda, Triforce Heroes.
That looks slightly more interesting, but
I never really got into the Swords games, so I can't really comment to their quality. But
yeah,
I thought it was really funny when the guys because they're talking about like one of our main features. I really love the guys that get to like voice over the Japanese people. It's like one of our main features is the totem pole feature in our game. We only allow you to stack 3 links. That's why it's the Triforce Heroes. We thought 4 links in a totem pole was too much. It's like no explanation for why. It's just like okay, sure. Yeah. It has, although I will say, apparently Triforce Heroes has online co-op, which is like
that's good.
It's kind of surprising to me that like. Makes it so that game was theoretically playable for more than like 5 people. Because that was my problem with the Four Swords games. Is I had Link to the Past with Four Swords for the
Game Boy,
yeah. But I never knew anyone else who had it, so it's like I couldn't play it because it didn't have link cable stuff that I could do. So like it being co-op online means that like if I ever got a 3DS, I could at least theoretically play the game.
Yeah. And the lack of 3DS support at the moment really bothers me just because that game is... That system has such a robust library already.
Yeah, and with the new 3DS having just come out, like I was kind of expecting like maybe they would at least try to announce a game that's like, this is going to be a brand new game that fully takes advantage of the new 3DS features and thus can only be played on the new 3DS because it's really cool.
Yeah, who knows? And, you know, that Metroid Prime one they're talking about and the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors, those both make extensive use of the new 3DS stuff, but they are technically playable on the old 3DS. So I don't think you would want to play them there because you'd have to do crazy stylish shit.
Yeah, probably. Like, the camera stuff's probably weird without the second.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Nintendo.
There's one thing we need to talk about with Nintendo still.
The puppets?
Okay, we should address the puppets. Like, I guess, like, the format of the conference. I will say... I do really like that Nintendo just does a video for their stuff, especially since they don't have anything good to show. It makes it so it's like, I was actually really impressed by their puppet skits. Like, in between, it's like, they were just really weird in a way that I didn't expect Nintendo to do. Like, there's one where they had, like, Satoru Iwata Puppet Man sitting in his chair in his office, staring at a bunch of bananas, and then looking to the camera, and then it just cuts to the next trailer.
I was mostly just baffled, but yeah.
Yeah, but, like... I felt like baffling and funny in a really intentional way that's like, I don't know who organized that, but they've got there was someone working at Nintendo, like some like intern or something who had a bunch of puppets who's like, I have a great idea and like I am a weird fucking person, but it like had some personality in a way that like made it an enjoyable video to watch, you know? So it's like, I like that format for them. I think it was smart for them several years ago to stop doing E3 big press conferences because they just don't make enough games anymore on their consoles to fill a full press conference. And so it makes them seem, even if like they actually have a really weak lineup, that lineup would seem way weaker if they were out on a stage in front of a huge audience trying to like make these announcements, you know? But that was another thing I wanted to say. This is just linking into a bigger topic that I just want to at least touch on, is that they had a dude from Activision for Skylanders, the new Skylanders game, where they're having a turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer Slam Bowser figures for Skylanders that will be playable on Wii U Skylanders that have a little switch at the bottom that turns them into amiibos for the Wii U to read. They also had those 2 Animal Crossing games that, like, at least the one board game had Amiibo in the title. I think it was Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival.
Every single game they talked about had Amiibo support.
Yes. What the fuck with Amiibos? Like, that's really what I want to talk about.
Here's what I want to say.
Are they not the most disgusting fucking things Nintendo has, like, ever done as a business?
I think they're printing money for them, and they've become shameless about it. That's it. I still don't think they're for most of these, they're, like, ruining the games themselves. Like, Mario Maker will be fine without it, but they are shilling so hardcore for it because... And honestly, what worries me about it is, are they using Amiibos as an excuse not to make actual games?
Yeah.
Because this is more profitable?
It's something where it's like the whole Amiibo thing just seems really disgusting to me because it feels like, you know, they're making forced demand by really restricting their supply. Mm-hmm. They're making a bunch of limited edition figures. And then, like, as the years have gone on now, for like the last 2 years or whatever, how long Amiibos have been around, like the games featuring Amiibos have steadily gotten, like the Amiibos, like, content has suddenly gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. With Splatoon, I know the Amiibo functionality is like you get different versions of the existing campaign maps that when you complete them give you unique multiplayer items. And it's like for Mario Maker, it's like the Amiibos allow you to change your Mario character into like an 8-bit Marth or whatever and stuff, you know? And the more impactful the Amiibos become on individual games, the more disgusting Amiibos become to me because they're basically like DLC with physical rarity, which is really fucked up. And
I agree.
I really hate.
Because I've tried to get a couple in the last few months that I wanted. I wanted that Lucina Amiibo. I wanted the Toad one just because I like those characters. You couldn't get them.
Yeah.
They were just impossible, and it is disgusting because you would have to, like, you know, stay up at a certain hour to order it from Amazon. I'm not going to do that shit for an Amiibo.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's... If they weren't doing the forced demand stuff, it wouldn't be as disgusting to me. They don't need to be doing it. They're going to sell well anyway. But the forced demand stuff really is what makes it more disgusting than anything else.
Yeah, it's just something where it's like, I just want to at least touch about it because it's like, I feel like a lot of time people like in the video games industry like focus on a lot of like the ways that DLC and stuff have been used poorly by companies in like in really exploitive ways. But I feel like there's not a lot of people like speaking up about like how fucked up Amiibos are slowly becoming, and like if that trajectory continues, like the moment it breaks for me is when you have like a Smash Bros type game or something like that where like a full playable character or something, you need the Amiibo to play it. Like as soon as there's a piece of content that's significant or like a brand new level in a game, like that's where it completely falls apart. Because it's like I do not want to exist in a world where like my access to the full content of the game is restricted to my ability to buy these stupid, really rare action figures that are really shit action figures on their own anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah. Fuck Amiibos.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really quickly talk about Square Enix, because there's nothing to talk about Square Enix. I don't know why they gave their press conference. It was baffling. It felt like... I saw a tweet afterwards I thought was hilarious, where someone said, it's like, did anyone else feel that the Square Enix press conference more felt like a high school assembly? It's like, that's exactly the tone. Like, it was a bunch of people standing up there, talking very monotone into a microphone, with weird long pauses, clearly not knowing what they're talking about, like talking about a lot of stuff that they didn't show like enough like gameplay demo or like trailer for to justify the amount of time they spent on it. It's just like really baffling. So I'm just gonna like really quickly just say the things that they had up there, and if there's anything that catches your attention, we can talk about it more. Just Cause 3, which looks really cool. I've never really played the other Just Cause games, but they're always like Just Cause 2 was really well received. So this seems like really over the top and crazy. Coming out December 1st, 2015. Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Then Crystal Dynamics showed a trailer for Tomb Raider. I think it was basically the same thing they showed at Microsoft. They said, yeah, by the way, we're making that Final Fantasy VII Remake thing that we showed last night. Here's that trailer again. Here's World of Fantasy. World of Final Fantasy. I still don't know what that is. I saw two different trailers for that game. I don't know what it is. We're still making Kingdom Hearts 3. They said that, showed some gameplay footage.
That was at least a substantial trailer for that
game.
Yeah.
I guess, like, since I don't really care about Kingdom Hearts, I kind of passed over it. But that was significant for people who like Kingdom Hearts. Like, we only got, like, kind of teaser stuff. I think when the PS4 was announced is the last time that showed up somewhere. So that was cool.
And, however, though, while it looks a lot further in development, it still just says at the end, now in development. So that game could be 5 years away, people.
Yeah, there was also, like, some other weird Kingdom Hearts, like, mobile game or something. Yeah.
There's
it's,
always
like, reminded me, it's like, where is it called? Where's its title? Oh, yeah, the mobile title, Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key. It's like, as someone who doesn't play Kingdom Hearts games, and I imagine as someone who does, like, if you were someone who does play some of them, Kingdom Hearts must be fucking baffling to you because you need every single device under the sun to play all the games in that franchise. So that was the Kingdom Hearts stuff. Hitman showed up again. I still don't really care that much about Hitman. It's probably okay. They had a trailer for Deus Ex. Mankind Divided. Someone said machine apartheid on the press conference, and I wasn't paying attention very much because I was bored out of my mind at that point. I was like, did someone just say apartheid? What is going on? I get that Deus Ex has like true humans and like androids and like that stuff, but apartheid seems like a weird term to bring up. Like, it's maybe a bit too specific of a historical reference for you to bring up there. They're making a sequel to that JRPG Nier that Platinum Games is working on it. I don't know much about it. I know that game has a very rabid fan base.
I had never heard of it.
It's Nier, spelled N-I-E-R.
Of course it is.
There you go. I think that was the name of the main character in that game. And then also, they revealed Tomb Raider Go, which is a mobile game in their now series of mobile games that are Square Enix franchises, then with the word Go at the end, Hitman Go, which was actually, I think, really well received for mobile games. I don't know much.
Tomb Raider Go!
Yeah. And Hitman Go, because actually, no, I did play some of it because it's so well received. Hitman Go is kind of like a puzzle game. Like, in a weird, like, abstract way.
The title, Hitman Go, sounds like some weird, like, Chinese philosopher.
I get it. But, like, Hitman Go, like, the Hitman Go game was basically, like, you have a certain number of, like, moves you can make or something, and, like, this grid environment to, like, move your guy, and, like, you have to get around other guys in this, like, very abstract way and, like, assassinate them. So it's basically, like, an abstract puzzle game. I have no idea what Tomb Raider Go is going to be, because it's not that. So I don't know what any of that stuff means. Then they're making a new Star Ocean game, which is a bunch of old JRPGs that I don't know much about, called Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, which is a really super Japanese subtitle. And the great thing about that is that Star Ocean is obscure enough that it's not like Fire Emblem If. I'm pretty sure that's just going to be the subtitle that they're just going to stick with for the North American release. So that's great. Then Square Enix said, we're releasing a Final Fantasy portable app that's basically Wikipedia for Final Fantasy, and it's in Japan already. Now it's going to be over here.
Yay!
And then they also said, we're making a new studio called the Tokyo RPG Factory, which is maybe just what all of Square Enix's Japanese studios should be called, because they're all Tokyo RPG factories. And then they showed a bunch of concept art for something called Project Setsuna. And then I fell asleep because I got up early to watch the Nintendo thing, and like this Square Enix thing killed me. like it was really surprising how dull it was, because they only showed almost everything they showed were for Japanese games, most of which are like games that normally wouldn't even come out over here. And there's like a couple of moments of Hitman, Just Cause 3, and Deus Ex and Tomb Raider, which I thought those were the games they were going to show, because it's like, this is a Western trade show. Square Enix recently has had a lot of big, high-profile Western games. You know, all those franchises are huge over here. They barely showed anything from any of those games. Why did they give this press conference? It was like 90 minutes long. What the fuck is Square Enix doing? Jesus. Somehow, they had a 90-minute press conference and had time to show concept art for a game called for a project called Project Setsuna. And they didn't show anything for Final Fantasy 15, which is coming out like next year. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was funny because that press conference started. No one talked about it while it was going on.
Yeah.
And really no one talked about it after. And I thought, did I mishear something? Was there not really a Square Enix conference? And there was, it just wasn't anything.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was happening until at the end of the Nintendo stream I was watching. The people commenting on it were like, oh, and now we're going to cut over to the Square Enix conference, which is starting in 30 minutes. And we'll be talking about that. And I'm like, there's a Square Enix press conference? I guess I'll watch this too. And I really wish I hadn't.
All right, well...
And that's the book closed on E3 press conference.
We ended on a couple of down notes, but overall, as we said, this has been a fun E3.
Yes.
Any closing thoughts?
Let's see. Shenmue 3 is now at $3,079,220 with 39,217 backers. I still can't believe that game is going to get made.
Yeah, crazy.
And yeah, like you said, we ended on a couple of down notes because like E3 is always...
up and down.
It's always up and down. It's always crazy. I fucking love it, even when it's like destroys my entire day. And this E3, there was a lot of really exciting stuff. As we said, like both Microsoft and Sony had really, really strong showings, along with Bethesda, I thought. And it was interesting that both Microsoft and Sony had very different kinds of conferences, but both of them were very strong, but in different ways. like Microsoft was very focused on like the here and now and the near future, and had a lot of strong announcements and some good like sort of broader news things for their platform. And Sony was, committed to like sort of demonstrating the further ahead stuff that they're working for, while also stealing up a lot of like sort of exclusive stuff and showing off a lot of third-party stuff for their console this year. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. It's been a fun couple of days. I think unexpectedly so. A lot of nice surprises. And just, it makes me nervous with all the games I'm going to have to play in the near future, but also excited because I know there will be a steady stream. And I know I have to work this summer. I have to get through Arkham Knight and Witcher 3 at least. Right, so I clear that docket for the fall.
Yeah. And then also, should be mentioned, there was like 2 seconds of footage in like a Vita like
Persona 4 Dancing All Night?
For Persona 4 Dancing All Night at the Sony.
That was the most enthusiastic tweet I made from this.
Yes, it was like just the briefest glimpse of Persona on an E3 press conference.
Always nice.
Made me very happy.
Yes. And I think that's the right note to end on. We will be back very soon in a couple of days with our summer movie roundup kind of for the first half of summer and talk about at least Avengers and Mad Max. So look forward to that. And then, Arkham Knight in a week or so. We're going to have to start talking about that. Lots of exciting stuff coming up.
Yes. Fucking E3, man.